This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
Grateful to have you here with us on what promises to be an entertaining and insightful episode of the show. I love the combo of those two. We'll shoot to find that sweet spot with our three panelists today, our three guests, as you know, through the course of the 2025 federal election campaign. We've been hanging out with the intrepid team at POLITICO. They've been traveling across the country covering the campaigns and, of course, providing excellent analysis at politico.com. We're gonna wrap up our collaboration today and check in with Nick Taylor-Vaisey and Mickey Djuric. Both of them have been checking in from Quebec, from Alberta, from BC, from Ontario, giving us the different takes, the different observations, keeping an eye on the different trends that ultimately led to a Liberal minority win. Maybe for some Conservative supporters, a shocking loss, not just because Pierre Poilievre's team didn't win that election. Pierre Poilievre didn't win his seat, and now they're trying to sort out that mess as well. There's a lot to sift through. The NDP essentially burned to the ground. What does that mean for that party and more? On the back half of this episode, we're going to talk to perhaps one of the most prominent campaign strategists in the country. I'm saying perhaps to light a fire under him because he's sitting in our green room right now, and he's going to have the next 25 minutes or so to stew over the fact that I'm suggesting that there may be other campaign strategists more prominent than him, than Stephen Carter. He's one of the co-hosts of the wildly popular Strategist podcast. He was working on campaigns through this federal election, and he is going to get out his scalpel and in front of all of us conduct campaign autopsies on behalf of all the major parties. All of that before the end of this episode. Plus, by the way, we've got you covered with some fantastic ideas for Mother's Day, which is coming up. We're going to send you out to Jasper. I think that's a great idea for everybody, don't you? That's coming up before this episode wraps as well. The presenting sponsor of this episode, the one that's making it happen, is Alberta's top online real estate school. That's Relo at relo.ca, where better real estate training starts. If you're looking around, you're seeing your friends that work in real estate set their own hours. They've got unlimited earning potential. They're helping people buy or sell that perfect property. And you're going, I think I've got the personality traits. I've got the drive to make a successful career in real estate happen. You're going to want to start with Relo. Look no further than online learning for the bold and ambitious. Wherever you're at in your career, they're going to help you find the next level. Check out their courses online. Again, that's relo.ca. And if you're looking for the most economical approach, check out their Alberta residential and commercial real estate bundles. The promo code Ryan100 will knock $100 off each of them. That's Ryan100, all one word, when you get started today at relo.ca. Stephen Carter in 25 minutes right now. It's a pleasure to head back out to our friends at POLITICO. They've been covering this campaign in depth, covering the stories that have been resonating with Canadians and, of course, the trends that contributed to the outcome of the election just a very short time ago. Nick Taylor-Vaisey is Politico's Ottawa bureau chief. Mickey Djuric last joined us from a border town in Quebec, and we're thrilled to welcome both of them to the show this morning. Just a very short time after Mark Carney took to the podium and thanked Canadians for giving him a shot at being prime minister again. Good morning to both of you. Nick, were you shocked? Were you surprised at the outcome of the election, or was this pretty much a manifestation of the trends that you'd been talking about for weeks to come?
Yeah, this is a version of, I think, what we expected. The projections all sort of lean towards Liberal majority, right? And others said, well, I don't know, maybe minority. And so that we ended up getting about as close as you could to a Liberal majority without having one of those.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges probably that both of you had is when you're attending campaign events as well, you're surrounded by all the hype, you're surrounded by the rallies, and it can be tough to get a sense of where everybody's at on the doors. Mickey, tell us about your experiences after you checked in with us from Quebec. Where did you go from there? What were you keeping an eye on? And ultimately, how did that translate into what happened at the polls?
Yeah, well, I ended up checking out the two debates that were in Quebec, and then I just headed back to Ottawa and was talking to sources. I think that the election results did pretty much translate to what I was hearing on the doorsteps across the country. A lot of people were very passionate about wanting change and the government to consider affordability issues as their top priority. And a lot of people were also very passionate about Donald Trump and his tariffs. And so I think we kind of saw that in the results. It was close between conservatives and liberals. And I think we have a very divided country. And Mark Carney is going to have a huge task at making sure that we're all united going forward.
Mickey, you've got a great piece. People can read it right now at Politico.com. Conservative torches Doug Ford after election loss. This was kind of an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on. Doug Ford and Pierre Poilievre, both conservatives, sure, but probably not purveyors of the same style of conservatism. And I think you can safely say not exactly political allies. Take us into that story.
Yeah, so on election night, Jamil Jovani, a Conservative MP that represents a riding just outside of Toronto, just essentially blamed progressive Conservative Premier Doug Ford of basically meddling into the federal campaign. His argument is, listen, Ford, you just had a provincial election. We stayed out of your business. You should have stayed out of ours. Doug Ford, days before the election happened, did an interview with one of our Washington reporters, talking about Pierre Poilievre and criticizing how he didn't build relationships with premiers and mayors across the country. And on election night, Jamil Jovani felt that this played an impact ultimately in the election results. And I was at the Conservative headquarters on election night. And when he was giving this interview to CBC News live on the air shortly after his win, the whole crowd at Conservative headquarters were just cheering on Jamil Jovani. They also agreed. I spoke to other supporters in the Conservative Party headquarters that also felt that Doug Ford just should have kept his mouth shut, essentially, and they feel that he derailed their campaign. One person told me that he had friends who wanted to vote for Pierre Poilievre's party, but then they had concerns because of what Doug Ford was saying. And so voters were questioning in Ontario, well, can we have a prime minister to tackle Donald Trump and tariffs if he can't get along with the Premier of Ontario, who is the U.S.'s largest trading partner when it comes to provinces in this country? Yeah,
you got Alberta Girl here in our live chat, powered by Park Power, and she says, that's pretty funny because Danielle Smith was meddling and never got called out. I mean, meddling, an interesting word, but she sure was a factor in the election, especially off the top. We did a thing here. We did an entire feature on how Danielle Smith was dominating the headlines through the federal election campaign through its entire first week. Mickey, what do you think the difference was between Danielle Smith's involvement in the campaign? I know she wouldn't use that word, and Doug Ford's involvement, acknowledging he wouldn't use that word either.
They really needed, I think it was more, I guess, focused on Ford because the Conservatives really need Ontario to win the election. Usually that's their path to success, is picking up seats in the Toronto area, especially around the GTA. And they actually did pick up some seats around parts outside of Toronto, but it just wasn't good enough because the Liberals did more. So I think it was more on a heightened scale of what Doug Ford was saying, because of the population and the vote-rich area that he represents. And he was also dragging other premiers into it too. He was joking about how him and Tim Houston were talking about, who the next Conservative leader was going to be for the federal Conservatives before the election day had even happened. So I think that Ford was perhaps a little bit more vocal on personal things, where Danielle Smith was maybe more focused on, the interests of Albertans.
Kind of an interesting scenario, Nick, isn't it? When you've got these two, we'll say the two most prominent Conservative premiers in Canada. I think I can say that safely, although I know Tim Houston's name is popping up again and again and again and will probably become more of a significant player. But both of these premiers right now are operating with public support that their teams would describe as ideal. Doug Ford just winning another election. Danielle Smith, I don't have to remind this audience, a pretty successful go at it with her review at the most recent UCP AGM. Both premiers polling relatively high. So how does this all wind up, especially in the position that Pierre Poilievre's in right now. Not exactly ideal on a couple of fronts.
Yeah, this is a tremendously uncomfortable time for a conservative leader who just essentially had a historic success. I mean, 40+% of the vote for the first time since Brian Mulroney was prime minister. Pretty much for the Conservatives have never done better in Pierre Poilievre's life, except for 2 Brian Mulroney elections when he was a kid, and also significantly increased the seat count. Loses his own seat. So now all the talk here in Ottawa, of course, because what do? We gossip, is about which Conservative member of Parliament is going to give up their seat so that Pierre Poilievre can run in a by-election. And where do you get safe seats in Canada for Conservatives? You get them in Alberta. And so now we're looking down the list of Conservative incumbents and saying, who's going to take one for the team? Until he gets back in Parliament, Pierre Poilievre cannot be an effective opposition leader. It's even awkward that he lives in the official residence for the leader of the official opposition, because that person is reserved for, or that house, sorry, is reserved for the person who is in that seat in the House of Commons. Now, unlikely the guy's going to get kicked out of the place. I will walk by every so often to make sure there's still cars in the driveway. But this is a time for him where he's going to need a few weeks, months of licking his wounds and also though celebrating and marking the huge successes across the country, and including, as Mickey mentioned, in the Greater Toronto area, where the party exceeded expectations, and where I think he demonstrated that all that talk about crowd size at his rallies, there was something to that. Obviously, not enough to reverse that remarkable Liberal turnaround in the polls, but getting all those thousands of people to all those rooms did it. They were talking about how that was all about voter enthusiasm, and the polls weren't detecting it. Well, I think the polls were, and I think in the end we saw that there were a lot of motivated Conservatives in places where they wanted to win, just not enough places.
Yeah, fair enough. We talked to Leduc-Wetaskiwin MP Mike Lake on our most recent episode. That would have been the 29th of April. People can check it out on our YouTube channel and wherever they get their podcasts, obviously. And that was kind of a mixed bag from Mike, who I quite like, by the way. I think he's one of the good guys in politics. He wins his 7th straight election. I'm not sure if you guys saw, with a 75% share of the vote, like just absolutely dominant. He's been there for 19 years now and counting, and obviously cares a great deal about what he does. And interesting having a conversation with somebody like that. Nick, you invoke the word celebration, and tough to celebrate when you lost, but at the same time, there are wins to be counted, and there's team morale to consider, and there's a base that should be encouraged, satiated, maybe. But interesting to hear from Mike as well. We put him on the spot. What do you think, Mr. Lake, about Mr. Poilievre's scenario as a leader without a seat, and what's he going to say the morning after the election? He says he's going to wait, and he's going to listen, and he's going to consider all of these different things. But he did note some of the positives that he's taking away from the campaign, some of the positives that the Conservatives take away from the campaign. Kind of 2 things, I guess. Sports metaphors is where I operate most comfortably. The Edmonton Oilers lose in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final to Florida. A lot of positives to think about, but at the end of the day, you lost. So not a lot of celebrating, but still, you got to think and look forward, right? What about next year's Stanley Cup playoffs, which is where they are right now? I also think of a scenario when the Toronto Raptors won the World Championship, the NBA's World Championship. And can we all acknowledge it was not just because Kawhi was phenomenal and we had Siakam before he had to leave and all of these things, but also because there were some key injuries on the dynasty that was the Golden State Warriors that allowed Toronto to do it. And if I'm a Conservative supporter right now, I'm looking at this and I'm going, there was such an unusual this storm, Hurricane Trump blew in out of nowhere and essentially changed the entire landscape in a Conservative campaign that could have been and was projected to be almost dominant, just wasn't because of external factors. And I would imagine that Conservative supporters across the country are having to reconcile that. It wasn't your average election.
I mean, I think the most frustrated person in the country right now is a diehard Conservative, looking back at the last 4 months for exactly the reasons you've described. This thing was in the bag. They were measuring the drapes as much as they were denying that they were doing that, and with good reason. I mean, we were all writing it. The obituary was told. And then Donald Trump comes, Mark Carney comes, and the polls just responded in a way that every week had worse news for the Conservatives until the end, when, as Poilievre reminded everybody on election night, he said, I think, virtual tie or something. I mean, it was not a virtual tie in the polls, but it was pretty close. I mean, the real story underneath that, I think, is just, and we've talked about this before, the collapse of the NDP nationally. I mean, the vote share they got in some of these ridings is obviously historically bad, but like 1.6% they got in Vaughan Woodbridge, where the Liberal incumbent lost. The Conservative won with 60% of the vote. But then which was an incredible Conservative win in the Greater Toronto Area. But what I noticed more than anything was the 1.6% for the NDP. They fell away in places where even if they weren't going to win, they would get that sort of like 10 to 15% that New Democrats will get. There's always that core of support. And that just bled and bled and bled, mostly to Mark Carney.
Progressive voters weren't messing around, and the NDP paid the price. And that's for sure. And there was evidence of that all over the place, including in the Edmonton riding of Edmonton-Griesbach, by the way, an interesting vote split between the NDP and the Liberals there that ultimately hurt the incumbent, Blake Desjardins. Former newspaper columnist Kerry Diotte regains his seat. He's back in Ottawa, winning in Edmonton-Griesbach. But check this out. We're showing you his face right now. This is Kerry Diotte, a man that's known to Edmontonians, maybe known to Alberta Conservatives, maybe not more outside of that. He's never been a cabinet minister. He's not done a whole lot prominently on the national stage. But the Real Talk Rumour Mill is reporting, and we're not the first to do it, but some folks are suggesting that Kerry Diotte has volunteered his seat for Pierre Poilievre. Mickey's going, really? Yeah, this is
that rumor has made its way to Ottawa.
Has it really made its way to Ottawa? No,
oh,
no.
Yeah,
I've not spoken to Kerry Diotte personally. And I don't know this to be true. It would be an interesting one. You'd have Pierre Poilievre representing an Edmonton riding. You'd have Kerry Diotte leaving before he's earned his pension, which could be interesting. Now, obviously, everybody understands how this type of thing works. He would do it, and I'm not saying brown envelope stuffed full of cash, but there would be some sort of appointment, some sort of opportunity. Kerry Diotte is not doing this purely out of the goodness of his heart. Let me be clear. This is my opinion, and I do not speak for Kerry Diotte, but he's doing this, number one, because probably he would love to win favor with the leader of the party, and in his mind, the man who will be maybe 18 months from now the Prime Minister of Canada, but also because it would probably earn him gratitude and opportunity across the country. And who doesn't love opportunity across the country? So we'll wait to see what happens in that riding. Are either of you hearing rumblings of a riding of a successful candidate, maybe closer to Ottawa, that may be looking along those same lines to pave the way for Pierre Poilievre to come in?
I'm just keeping my eye on Edmonton and Calgary. That's where I'm looking. I think, I mean, again, no bets being made here, but these are places where I think it's fair to say you can play the long game as a Conservative. So if Pierre Poilievre is successful at his next go around, and there is a Conservative government, and you're back in the seat that you gave up, then maybe that long game gets you a seat in cabinet. Like it's the kind of calculus that people will play. And I'm going to keep a tab open with all the Conservative MPs in that particular province.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I think Danielle Smith said it best. He needs to run again in an area where it's essentially a sure thing, where they're for sure going to be voting Conservative no matter what, and that's in Alberta.
Well, so I was thinking about, I don't know, I'm stopping myself right here. Real talk. I was thinking about this morning in the shower, and then my brain says, why do you need to let the audience know you're in the shower? That's irrelevant. But I really was. I was leaning against the wall in the shower this morning, and I'm sitting there thinking, a riding, this, let's say hypothetically, this is just as a thought exercise. Let's say it is Edmonton-Griesbach. Let's say Kerry Diotte does leave his seat, and Pierre Poilievre comes in. He doesn't just get to come in. There's a by-election, right? He doesn't just get to come in. And so now you've got a scenario where anybody, you would have progressives in that riding with pitchforks and torches saying, if anybody fucking votes for the Liberals in this riding, we're going to burn your house to the ground. And it will be a showdown. It will be a square off between the two former MPs, between Kerry Diotte and Blake Desjardins. And if you have a scenario like that, just as a thought exercise, And you're running those two candidates against one another in a by-election. And Mr. Desjardins wins his way back to Ottawa, and Pierre Poilievre loses a by-election to get into his seat, surrendering the Conservative presence in Edmonton-Griesbach. Wouldn't that be a story?
Yes,
I mean, that's game over for Pierre Poilievre in that hypothetical. But I think the other thing you have to think about, wherever Pierre Poilievre runs, like you say, it's an election and there are opponents, and who will the opponent of choice in whatever riding it is put up against him? I mean, Blake Desjardins is an option in Griesbach, of course, but who else might come out of the woodwork as a show of progressive force to try to embarrass Pierre Poilievre for the second time? I mean, imagine all the people licking their chops at that opportunity.
Yeah, nothing's a sure thing. What do you think, Mickey?
I was going to say, all I know is that if he does choose to stay on and run in a by-election, he's definitely going to be having to spend time there door knocking. I was hearing that from his team on election night, is that he was really upset that he didn't end up being in his riding at all throughout the 5-week election period. And I'm sure they're looking at that in hindsight today, saying that they should have spent more time door knocking. And this was the first election, actually, where he hasn't been door knocking in his riding during an election period. So wherever he ends up running, if he does, I'm sure he'll be out there every single day knocking on doors.
Yeah, to say the least. Nick, people I know check out and subscribe to the Ottawa Playbook at Politico.com. It's been one of, honestly, the honors of my career to contribute to the Ottawa Playbook through the course of this campaign. I'm serious. I started, as an editorial assistant at the Calgary Herald back in 1998. That was my very first paid job in media, and I always loved print, we'll call it, but of all the written word, so to speak, and I've always appreciated the doors opening there. I want people to make sure that they subscribe to the Ottawa Playbook at Politico.com. It's nice and easy to find. You just click on Canada and then Ottawa Playbook. But you got some interesting insights here, and this is kind of the up-to-the-minute reporting. This just posted today. No time to waste. The Prime Minister is at it. I mean, what do I call him now? He's not sworn in yet, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. Mark Carney. We're expecting a cabinet within the next couple of weeks. What should we expect to see from Mark Carney and his team over the next number of days?
Well, they got a lot to do. They don't have a lot of time to do it. Whatever his cabinet reset is going to look like, and people I think are expecting a different look than that. It wasn't an interim cabinet, but it felt like it, after he became prime minister, and he had this slimmed down group of 24 people. It's going to be a bigger cabinet. There will be representation from all the regions that usually go into cabinets. There will be a much more complicated, complex cabinet-making process. The whiteboards with magnets and names, but they've got to do it pretty quick. They promised to table a budget. So what they have to do first is introduce a throne speech and lay out their governing priorities. Simultaneously, the number of people will be putting together that budget. And they've got to think about the House of Commons math, too, because they do have a minority of the seats. And so they're going to have to find a partner to help them get that legislation and any legislation through the House. He's talked also about very quickly before July 1st or in time for July 1st, knocking down all the interprovincial trade barriers he can control. So there's that, too. That's a lot to pack into the first, not even 100 days. We're talking much faster timelines to get all that stuff ready and out into the world. So we're going to be busy, Mickey and I, over the next little bit in coffee shops and pubs and West Block and all the other places we go for stories and sources in Ottawa.
Yeah, pubs probably the most fruitful, I would imagine.
Darcy McGee's actually most specifically. I'm sure your listeners are now well acquainted with that.
Yeah. Pubs are where you pick up on stories like Buttongate. That's where you get the scoops on those types of stories.
Literally Buttongate at Darcy McGee's in that case. Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. Mickey, I had a buddy reach out to me yesterday, and he's one of these guys that maybe you have friends like this too, pays almost zero attention to politics, but his instincts are pretty good. Like he's everything he observes to me, I'm like, you know what? Like, yeah, I mean, this guy maybe in another life would be a campaign strategist. I don't know. But anyway, he gives me a call yesterday for 5 minutes and wanted to talk about the election results and this, that, and the other. And he goes, I guess the minority government, he goes, yeah, I don't think it'll be a big deal though. He goes, they'll just cooperate with the Bloc and Quebec will get everything it wants per usual. I kind of chuckled. And then you go, Well, I mean, that probably is an element of truth to that statement. You don't really have a formidable NDP representation. You have enough if you can get all of them to pass bills in the House. But what are you expecting to see in how these alignments happen and how the cooperation plays out over the next while? I know Canadians do not want to see another election in 6 months.
No, and I'm actually not ruling out the political chops of the Liberal Party just yet. They're right now 4 seats away from a majority.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put it past them if they're starting to have conversations with Bloc Québécois MPs, maybe some NDP MPs, and trying to convince them to cross the aisle. They just need 4, maybe even less with the recounts that we're going to be having. So, we're in a minority now. They might have to work with one of the parties, but they might not have to. They might be able to convince 3 or 4 people, give them some sweet deal, maybe even promise chairing a committee meeting, maybe even joining cabinet. So, I'm keeping my eye on who might, be tempted to cross the floor in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and I guess dangling cabinet positions is obviously one way to do it, to convince somebody to do that. We've got an interesting point here from Super Chat Ken, who says it'd be interesting to see if Stephen Guilbeault is in cabinet. Carney will definitely have to put a bunch of Quebec MPs in cabinet, but Daniel Smith's faux head may come off if Stephen Guilbeault is in there. There are some political entities, some personalities that are directly tied not just to Justin Trudeau, but to some of the what is perceived as pretty significant opposition on the prairie provinces to national energy projects. I shouldn't use that acronym NEP if I'm not looking to really trigger people in Alberta, but you get the idea, Nick, and you start to wonder how different the Carney cabinet might look than Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau's cabinet before his.
Yeah, I mean, Carney kind of campaigned on change as much as he campaigned on stability. And so he can't look like Justin Trudeau government can't look like Justin Trudeau's government. His early policy moves made that point pretty strongly and pretty loudly. Canceled the carbon tax, which he will, we understand, according to at least Bob Fife's reporting, he'll formalize in the budget. But the number of people around that table it can't look like and sound like Justin Trudeau's cabinet, which I think makes the Alberta MPs, there are 2 of them now in that Liberal caucus, very, very interesting. They're going to be in cabinet, one of them. I don't know. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Mickey, what's one story you're keeping an eye on over the next few days that doesn't yet have resolution, something that you think that Canadians should be paying attention to?
Yeah, it's almost like what we were talking about with the cabinet, and it can't just look like Justin Trudeau. I want to look at, I'll be keeping an eye out on what policies that Carney will be putting forward, how his cabinet will look going forward, to signal to conservatives in this country that he is also listening to them. He's not just listening to the Liberal Party. And I think there's some policies or some cabinet positions that he can make that will signal that he is also listening to conservative voices in this country. And I think that's very important, as I mentioned off the top, that he needs to do things like this to bring the country together. A lot of conservatives at headquarters on Monday were talking about that they just feel like it's going to be another Justin Trudeau government, and they don't think that anything is going to change. So as he puts out his budget, as he forms that cabinet, as he introduces laws and has committee meetings, this is now his time to prove that he can unite this country truly, and that he is an alternative to Justin Trudeau.
That's Mickey Djuric, Nick Taylor-Vaisey, both of them important cogs in the wheel at Politico. You can check out their work at politico.com. Of course, international political reporting. You click right on Canada, it takes you right to the source. And then, of course, you can subscribe to that Ottawa Playbook, a daily look inside Canadian politics and power. It's been really, really fantastic getting to know the 2 of you better, gleaning your insights from across the country. I think you guys checked in from 4 different provinces for us through the campaign, and we're grateful for that. We'll look forward to working with you both again.
Thank you.
Yeah, you
absolutely.
got it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
yeah, make sure you follow those 2 on social media as well. Great follows. And again, their work at politico.com. On the Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power, get exclusive deals on internet, electricity, and natural gas by checking out parkpower.ca/real Real Talk. Got a whole bunch of you chiming in here on where you think this is all going to go. Will says, I'm concerned about Preston Manning rabble-rousing. He's really trying to get a fight started before anybody's even built a boxing ring. Meantime, Greg, not exactly optimistic about Prime Minister Carney's plan, says Carney's going to do whatever he wants without any concern for the citizens. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, number one, without any concern, I don't know about that. But number two, he's got to be careful, right? He's got to build consensus. It's different than a majority government. I like Mickey's observation on 4 seats. It's not an unsurmountable task. I'm going to ask Stephen Carter in 5 minutes what his approach would be. Remember, he's former chief of staff to Alberta Premier Alison Redford as well, now a formidable campaign strategist with Decide Campaigns. Stephen joining us in just a quick second, but before he does, I want to make sure if you work in the energy industry or you are energy industry adjacent, I want to make sure you know about the Nisku Energy Show that's coming up, 2025 Nisku Energy Show on the 14th and 15th of March, a 2-day event bringing together leaders from all parts of the energy sector as a hub for local innovation and collaboration. This show, the Nisku Energy Show, is going to highlight the expertise and advancements shaping Alberta's future. Explore the possibilities and excellence in the heart of Alberta. It's an unparalleled networking opportunity. They've got a job fair going on there as well. So, I mean, you could be like you just got your ticket, or it could be like you're the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the oil sands. It could be that you're a solar innovator or entrepreneur. Or you're curious on geothermal. Whatever it is, there's a fit for you at the Nisku Energy Show. You can get your tickets today, presented by the Leduc, Nisku, and Wetaskiwin Region Chamber at yourchamber.ca. Hey, the ranch is wide open, ready to take you and your 3 best friends right there on that first tee box. Oh my gosh, I love teeing off at the ranch. I mean, obviously, I spray it into the trees and spend the next 10 minutes looking for my ball, and then I grab a couple of beers off the cart, and then the next thing you know, the music's on, and I'm 30 over, but still the best way to spend a sunny afternoon. A couple of years ago, Score Golf Magazine ranked the Ranch Golf and Country Club as offering the best value in Edmonton, number 2 in Alberta, and number 30, a top 30 track in Canada. You can tour the course on their website, theranchgolf.com, or give them a call. And don't forget the Real Talk Golf Classic coming up Thursday, June 19th at the Ranch Golf and Country Club. Speaking of solar, our friends at Solar by Kuby are hiring right now. Canada's busiest solar installer, looking to level up their staffing as they're up on roofs as we speak. Farms, businesses, homes, cottages, and cabins, they do it all. Commercial, residential, industrial. Solar by Kuby is the best way to go green. You can get a free quote today on their website. That's kuby.ca, Kuby.ca, and check out the careers link too. They've got opportunities in BC and Alberta right now at kuby.ca. And before we get into it with Stephen Carter, for those of you that are digging the political science talk, maybe you're a little earlier stage in your career, a shout out to our younger audience members, maybe graduating from high school and in university, or the audience members that maybe now empty nesters, a little extra time on your hands, and you've always had that dream of heading back to school, maybe getting that undergrad in political science, maybe some sort of a management certification, HR, whatever it is. Athabasca University has the program for you with world-class accredited online degrees and courses so you can complete your education whenever and wherever it works for you. You can check out how AU works, browse the programs and courses, shout out to their MBA program, and learn about financial and other student supports at athabascau.ca. Good morning, Stephen Carter.
Well, I'm so excited. Thanks for the tonal drop after Athabasca University.
Well, because I'm just about to slap you with one here.
Are you?
Yeah, because I know you can take it.
Good.
One of the first messages on our Real Talk live chat today from Kenneth, who says, great, Stephen Carter.
The Stephen Carter.
The most arrogant prick, first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, technically not first thing.
Well, and I'm not sure I'm the most arrogant prick. I mean, you had Hogan on yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, it's one of top two.
Top two most arrogant
pricks. You know, Kenneth, I decided to come on and be nice.
Yes.
Today's goal was to be nice.
Would you not, please?
Now it's like, fuck you, Kenneth.
Okay.
Kenneth, I'm bringing the heat. And it's because of Kenneth that I'm gonna be nasty.
So we were going to see a sign of Stephen Carter no one's ever seen
It was
before.
gonna be all like,
but
hey,
because of
everything's-
Kenneth, now it's
everything's good in the world,
Yeah.
happiness everywhere. And now fucking Kenneth has got me all set off.
Yeah, you kind of have three of the most arrogant pricks in the world, and the three of you, Zane, Velji, Corey Hogan, and yourself, have
Oh my
combined to put in front of Canadians one of the most popular political podcasts this nation has ever seen in The Strategist.
Yeah, we have created a monster, an absolute monster. We get on every twice a week, once only for patrons,
Yeah.
because we like the money.
Yes.
We're like you, Jespersen.
Yes.
Right? We're total whores.
Well, we like keeping our lights on.
Oh, exactly. You know what? Who's got the money? Who's got the money? Then we go and we get the money and we
spend the
do
money.
a show. Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, but the strategist is what you do in your spare time, or you make time for it.
Yeah.
While you're not managing multiple political campaigns across the country. And for people that don't know, there are a few members of this audience that may not know who the fuck you are, but you've managed campaigns literally across the country at municipal, provincial, and federal levels.
Yeah.
And you're here to conduct campaign autopsies for us,
Yeah.
which I'm looking forward to. Are the principles of a successful campaign always the same, regardless of who the candidate is or where it is?
I've been in this game since 1997. I mean, just before you were at the Calgary Herald writing your first copy, right?
Smoking cigarettes with Catherine Ford.
Oh yeah, as one does. Oh, I don't know, Kathy. I mean, some pretty good stuff. But
I think we were still smoking inside at that
oh
time.
yeah,
as a matter of fact.
Catherine, what are we writing? I mean, just terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we've got, but right now, politics has changed so dramatically. I mean, the big shift when I was starting off was that we had a 24-hour news cycle. You remember the news networks coming online, and all of a sudden you had to respond within the hour. Because they were going to go live right now instead of having to worry about tomorrow morning's newspaper, right? Tomorrow morning's newspaper used to be the standard that we would all kind of govern ourselves towards.
Yeah.
And then just in the early 2000s, we're dealing with national news networks and how that fundamentally changed the game. And the media was at its absolute peak. And then we get to the 2010s with Nenshi, and we're using the social media revolution. And now here in 2025, both of those media empires are dead. Social media, I mean, look at Kenneth. I mean, jumping on, absolute fucking loser. Coming on and just using social media as some sort of means to communicate with the higher powers that are, Ryan Jespersen and Stephen Carter. Nice try, Kenneth. We don't know who you are. Right? But this is social.
I'm sorry, Kenneth. Kenneth
social,
did kind of pick a fight with an elephant, though.
He did. He chose this.
He chose this. He did.
He didn't have to do this.
No, he chose to do it.
Yeah, but social media is gone, right? We're not using Twitter the way we were using Twitter 10 years ago. We're not using Facebook the way I don't remember my Facebook password. Could be that I'm just old. Could be that I'm old.
There might be some senility involved.
There may be some senility involved. But the truth is, we don't use the social media as the way we used to, right? We have different ways of interacting. WhatsApp is more popular. WeChat for the Chinese community. There are many different things. A Discord. We have a Discord on our Strategist podcast. I didn't know what Discord was before we added it to the Strategist podcast.
Yeah.
And we're there now instead of being on Twitter. And so social media is dead. Traditional media died, a long time ago.
By the way, Will's in the chat saying, "Stop! Kenneth's already dead." So,
Will, look who threw himself onto the fucking spot. Way to go, Will.
Yeah.
I got a new target.
Yeah. So you and I are going to swerve all over the place here, and obviously an entertaining and insightful conversation, which is what we promised the audience. But I want to zero in on something, and we can tackle rumors, and whether or not you think this is real or bullshit, let me know either way as well. But you're familiar with Kerry Diotte, and he won in Edmonton-Griesbach, dispatching the NDP incumbent. The NDP moves from 2 seats to 1 in the province of Alberta. Disappointing for them for sure. It's not without risk. If this were to be true, it's not without risk that Pierre Poilievre runs in Edmonton-Griesbach. It's not a runaway. There's way safer ridings in Alberta.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to me, that's absolute lunacy to have a seat where the NDP could come back, where you could conceivably lose. You wouldn't want to do that. 2 losses in a row for Pierre Poilievre would be disastrous.
You just resign then, right?
It's all over. So why wouldn't you go? I mean, you've got 20 other seats, 30 other seats. You can go rural. I mean, there's a million different ways to solve this particular problem. And you start off by saying you're going to be my chief of staff, or you're going to be in my leader of the opposition office doing whatever. You're going to run Western Canada. Canada, and then you're going to be in my cabinet when we win next time.
Right.
Because there's no way that we held 41% of our vote in front of this 41% of the vote total in front of this tsunami of Trump and Carney. That's not going to happen. I'm the holder of 41% of the vote, says Pierre Poilievre. And that's legitimate. 41% of the vote is an unheard of number. More people voted for the Conservatives than have ever voted for anybody else, ever.
Yeah.
The only person who's gotten more votes than Pierre Poilievre is Mark Carney. That is it. This is historic. And there's no way that Pierre Poilievre can't say with confidence to one of 30 members of parliament, don't worry, I got your back.
And you give us some sense. Sometimes money talks. A lot of times money talks. Give people an idea of what a position like that would look like. We're talking like $300,000, flying business class, like enjoying, right?
You're going to make more money being in the leader.
You're going to make way more
money than you're making as a member of parliament.
Chiefs of staff often make more than the politician that they're steering, don't they?
I'm not allowed to talk about that due to non-disclosure.
We already know what your severance was when you got canned in Calgary. We already know.
Yeah. Chiefs of staff make more than the principal.
Right.
And that gives you the ability to make some money. You're basically on the same pension program. So there's opportunities to switch in, not lose a lot of your pensionable earnings, and you can still kind of then jump back in 4 years.
So you sound like you're not sticking a fork in the Conservative Party. You're not like this is.
Oh my God.
Right. So if it were, and Mike Lake was saying as much yesterday, he goes, there's a lot of positives to take away, and obviously it sucks to lose. Nobody's pretending that Conservatives, aren't disappointed that they lost. But were it not for the Trump factor, do you think that the Liberals would have been crushed this election?
Well, I think that we all thought the Liberals were going to be crushed. Between Trump and Justin Trudeau, you have two game-changing situations that work together to create this particular outcome. We didn't see this outcome coming, Ryan. I mean, we were looking at, 6 months ago, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, we were looking at this being an absolute whitewash for Pierre Poilievre. And even then, I was saying at the beginning of the Mark Carney leadership, if Mark Carney can hold Pierre Poilievre to a minority, it will be a victory. That was the benchmark. And now he's 4 seats away from a majority. I mean, it's unbelievable that we wind up in that situation.
So this is right now you've got an interesting situation. Mickey Djuric just talking about it with Politico, where they're 4 seats away from a majority government. And for the benefit of our podcast listeners, your face just exploded into a smile. And some people are wondering, is there going to be, sort of like relationship building across the aisle? Can they get the Bloc or the NDP to support them? And Mickey's going, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. They go get 4 MPs to cross the floor.
Oh, exactly.
Is that something you would pursue?
Oh, of course I would. I mean, anytime you can get an MP to cross the floor.
Can you get 4 of them?
Well, you start with 1. You start with 1 and you give that one person a nice enough package, and suddenly there's 3 more knocking on your door.
Right.
All you need is 1. And if you can get 1 to move, then everybody else starts to wonder, especially if you get it out of the NDP caucus. If you could go to the 7 people that are in the NDP caucus and say, okay, the first one to move gets cabinet. Second one to move becomes a parliamentary secretary. And third and fourth, I mean, you'll move anyways.
Well, third and fourth, you'll be part of government.
Yeah, and being any day in government is better than being a non-official party member of parliament.
Yeah.
You're not getting questions. There's no opportunity to shine at all. I mean, you might get a question every month, maybe, just through the random draws. You're not going to get the ability to bring legislation. You're not going to get the even legislation that's going to go down in defeat. You don't get to do any of that. You get nothing you don't get to be on committees. Like there's nothing that is, I mean, you might get a committee spot. One of you. Congratulations.
Maybe some elected representatives want that. Maybe they want very little pressure. Maybe they want to, what do MPs make? 180 grand, something like that? Maybe they want 5 days in Ottawa every week. Maybe they want to sit in the back and spend their time on
They can't all be Kerry Diotte. Come on. I mean, they can't all be that. There's going to be 2 or 3 that actually ran to achieve something. And that's all you need. 3 or 4 people, and you made a significant move.
Have you been part of orchestrating a floor crossing?
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about one.
Kerry McPherson crossed the floor from the NDP to the Alberta Party. There was 3 of them: Rick Fraser, Karen McPherson.
That's right.
I did those ones. I did. What was her name in Edmonton or in Lethbridge? Bridget Pascal. Bridget not Bridget, her mother.
Oh.
Anyways, we moved. I moved a Liberal MLA over to the Progressive Conservative side. Almost got Kent Hare to move one time out of the Liberal caucus to the PC caucus. Ultimately he said he had principles. I didn't believe it. I kept pushing. But nonetheless, I mean, these things, it's relatively common to see one or two people cross the floor.
But you're alluding to something like he said he had principles, so he wasn't going to do it. There is oftentimes, if not most times, hell to pay when a politician does that, right? I mean, like you look at now, Danielle Smith, 13 years later, she's now Alberta's premier, enjoying positive approval ratings and kind of running her own show in Alberta for now. And we'll talk about that. But her whole floor crossing debacle with Jim Prentice, I don't have to explain to this audience, back in December of 2014, ultimately deemed her, in her own words, unelectable for like 10 years in the province of Alberta. Like it's not like if you cross the floor, not only are you taking a risk in sort of the idea around betraying or offending the people that put you there, the people that gave you their vote, that voted for the party, not the candidate, but you're also putting at great risk your chances of re-election.
Sometimes, not necessarily. It really does. I mean, if I was sitting there as one of the 7 NDP MPs, I'd be wondering if my re-election chances aren't already dead. What's going to happen next? If who's going to become the leader? Is it going to be Heather McPherson? I mean, who is it that's going to step up? And are they really going to have the jam to take from a party from 7 seats back to official party status, back to actually having influence? The next leader has to get those 7 people right away and hold them together as a caucus. And that leadership begins before a formal leadership vote can even be called.
Interesting here from Aaron, who says, I'm not a fan of floor crossers, says it's opportunistic, careerist. I've never heard careerist before.
Yeah, Aaron's never had a job offer from someone else, obviously. And Aaron's never moved from one organization to another organization.
Is this your plan to come on here and just pick fights with all the audience members, I think? Is that what you're going to do?
Alternatively, I was going to pick a fight with you.
Well, what would you say to me to pick a fight with me?
I don't know.
Where would you hit me hard?
I don't know where I'd hit you hard at all. I mean, there's nothing to do here on Real Talk.
We had an indictment from Harman Candola, who you know.
I know Harman,
longtime PC candidate, and I think Harman's going to run for city council in Edmonton. Though I didn't put him on the spot yesterday. It didn't feel appropriate.
Listen, this is something I'm going to agree with you on, and you should have put him on the spot. Because, Harman needs to step up.
Yeah.
He's one of those people that is a community leader that needs to actually
he'll be here,
step up and do something.
He'll be here again as part of our group chat roundtable before the municipal elections, and I'll be sure to put him on the spot
there. You make me cry.
And you know him. He's a small C conservative-ish. He's a progressive conservative.
He's a progressive
for sure.
conservative. He's old school.
He's old school. He's a lot like me.
Yeah.
And he had some positive words for the Conservatives yesterday, but also an indictment, which I think is good. When you lose an election, you don't need to Pollyanna the whole thing. And basically he boiled it down. People can check out the short that Johnny put together. It's on our TikTok, Instagram, and on our YouTube channel. In 60 seconds or less, basically the election result explained. And it all came down to Trump and a failure to pivot and spending 2 years trying to convince Canadians that they needed Donald Trump Jr. and then realizing that Canadians don't want Donald Trump or Donald Trump Jr. and failing to adapt until it was too late. From an autoptistic, if we're doing an autopsy from an autoptistic.
Don't use the big words, Ryan. It doesn't work for you.
Careerist got me excited about the word of the day, and I've sort of had this whole new idea.
No, it's good. It's nice of you to stretch.
But if we're conducting an autopsy, Dr. Carter, is that simple? Is it the autopsy version of a big bullet wound in the chest? I mean, is that it, or was there something more at play?
I mean, ultimately, the Conservatives failed because the NDP failed. The Conservatives built themselves into a great big scary alternative, right? Made themselves a juggernaut. And that juggernaut was then viewed by the Canadian people. And, about half of the Canadian people said, no, we don't want that. 41% said, yes, absolutely, we want this. And that's historic. I mean, you can't blame Pierre Poilievre for getting the most votes in the second most votes in history. What you have to recognize is that the NDP under Jagmeet Singh have been collapsing for 10 years. The guy is the wrong guy, the wrong leader at the wrong time, and his actual leadership structure was such that he wasn't able to appeal to Canadians, and he never did. He never did, and he never got out of the way. It's like Elizabeth May. Elizabeth May continues to this day to be the leader of the Green Party when she has done nothing but take it into absolute despair.
But she keeps getting reelected.
You can't judge a party by one riding of lunatics.
But she is the party.
Let it go. It's over. It's over. Let the party go. The Green Party served a purpose. Now everybody's got major planks in their party about climate change, even the Conservatives have acknowledged climate change and would do something. Nothing
effective.
effective.
You're saying fold the party?
Let it go. It's done.
It's the most interesting political party in Canada in the sense that it has the people on the furthest left and the people on the furthest right. The composition of the Green Party is bizarre.
The Green Party used to be a second progressive conservative party back in the day. It was a very conservative. I mean, kind of the way that Preston Manning has some very conservative or conservationist ideas for actual protecting of our environment. It is not outside the realm of possibility to say that a Green Party is in fact a conservative party. But under Elizabeth May, the Green Party has become a meaningless party.
Huh. What do you make of what Preston Manning's up to and what he's doing?
Well, the same thing I thought of Preston Manning from the first day that he started his reform movement. I think very little of Preston Manning and what he tries to do. The man is someone who is a shit disturber, who doesn't know how to create anything positive. He only creates negativity, and his only brand and the only way that he can actually work is to take piles of shit, and light them on fire and then put them at your doorstep so you stomp it out. That's what Preston Manning has done over his political career, and that's what he continues to do. Have you ever read Think Big?
No.
Or Big? Don't.
I don't read.
It's fucking horrible. It's a man who said, I wonder if I can break apart the conservative movement in Canada, then does so, and then is shocked, I tell you, to find out that the conservative movement in Canada is something that shouldn't have been broken apart.
But I came up with his kids. I grew up with his kids, and so knew the family on a personal level. Actually got an ear infection in grade 11 at Henry Wisewood High School for wearing Reform Party lapel pins in my ear pierced holes. So that gives you a sense of how I came up. People have a hard time believing that I grew up like on the furthest end of the right wing, and then kind of swung to the middle as I came into my adult years. But
I became smarter.
Well, I remember the West Wants In initiatives, and I remember like Preston Manning and Deborah Gray and all the old schoolers, and I remember what it did for Western sentiments and the perception or the feeling that the West was involved and had influence in Ottawa. And ultimately, as you know, I don't need to tell you, he rose to opposition leader, and whether or not they ever had a chance of forming government, which I don't think they did. I don't know that the Reform Party was ever going to kill it in Ontario and Quebec. They were a relatively strong force and a significant player in federal politics for years and years and years. I think you're not giving the Reform Party and Preston Manning enough credit on that.
I'm just looking at you. I just don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth right now.
It's a talk show. You got it now. You come back at me.
I come back at you and I say you're just wrong. There was no Ontario breakthrough. There was no opportunity to go to Quebec for the Reform Party.
That's what I said.
The only thing that like Preston Manning only was able to pick up on Western alienation, and Western alienation is not something to build a party around. It's something to try and defeat. Because Western alienation is it's a terrible term. We have more seats in British Columbia and Alberta than they have in Quebec, and we bitch about it all the time. We have more capacity. We have the strength that Preston Manning was trying to figure out. We have that capacity in Alberta and British Columbia. What the hell? Why don't we just get together and decide that we're going to actually invoke some sort of positive change instead of being whiners and complainers that we're not having the industry support that we need? What do we need? We need our hand held in private business? Is this what we need? Like, stand up and be fucking impressive for once. We're Albertans. We can be that. That's what we should be. is just standing up on her own 2 feet and being impressive.
It's driving me absolutely crazy that people are agreeing with you in our live chat, right? It's driving me absolutely nuts right now.
Oh, that seems odd.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming, to be honest. I brought you on here to make me look better, and that's maybe not necessarily what's happening here. Shirley in our live chat, powered by Park Power, one of our incredible Real Talk sponsors.
Oh my God,
Steven.
I love those guys.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, did you know that if you go to parkpower.ca/Real Talk, you can get exclusive discounts on internet, electricity, and natural gas?
I did know that because I've done that several times. Now, I haven't actually followed through and bought anything.
You're one of
but I wanted to look and see what the discount looked like. And I thought, you know what? I'm against saving money. Well, I don't want to save money.
You've got enough of it.
I've got so much coming from the pod.
From the pod. Do you know how much time it's going to take me to fill out this 30-second form to save $150? I don't have time to do that.
Who has that?
I'm Stephen Carter.
$150 a month?
Shirley is wondering how Stephen thinks the other Stephen factored into the election. What do you make of Harper's involvement?
Oh, I think that it's a terrible move to bring back a failed premier. I also thought that bringing back Chrétien was a terrible move for Mark Carney. We're not going to ask Trudeau. Why would we ask Chrétien? Chrétien lost. Chrétien resigned. Chrétien's yesterday's man. Stephen Harper is yesterday's man. We have a renaissance where we remember them more fondly. The further we get away from their government, the more fondly we remember
George
them.
W. Bush.
What a great guy. Great,
incredible president.
Incredible president. Only compared to Donald Trump, right? But nonetheless, the comparison is Donald Trump. I wouldn't be going back to any of these has-beens. I would be saying, was it the nail in the coffin? Of course not. 41% of the vote. 41% of the vote. But on any other election, Pierre Poilievre is the prime minister.
We're talking to Stephen Carter, president of Decide Campaigns. You say president, right? Decide. You are
president,
Decide
chair,
Campaigns. Chair,
owner,
CEO, owner, dishwasher. Do everything.
I think you're familiar with the model.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing more annoying than paying other people the money you could keep for yourself,
right,
know. Carter? So you do it all.
Yeah, you do it all.
Yeah. Lemon Tart 21 in the live chat says, "Why is nobody talking about Mr. Poilievre losing his seat because of playing footsies with the Freedom Convoy? Did delivering coffee and donuts to the truckers in Ottawa hurt Mr. Poilievre 2.5 years later?"
Evidence shows that it did. It was the wrong move at the wrong time. He was on the wrong side of the people of Ottawa, and they remembered it. And they were waiting to unelect this guy. I don't know Bruce Fanjoy. I've never really met the guy.
Yeah, the candidate that beat him in his riding.
I don't know who. Maybe he's the world's greatest candidate.
I don't think anybody outside the riding knew who he was.
No one knows who this guy is.
And now he's the guy that beat Pierre Poilievre.
I mean, he's a giant killer. I'll tell you something. He's not a giant killer. Pierre Poilievre took a gun, put it to his head, shot the bullet. That's how you lose. You lose when people lose elections. Other people don't win. And Bruce Fanjoy didn't win this election. Pierre Poilievre lost.
Fact checking myself, because that's what we do here on Real Talk. The Ottawa occupation, the coffee and donuts, 3.5 years ago, not 2.5 years ago. Thus concludes our autopsy of the Conservative campaign.
Sweet.
With Dr. Stephen Carter.
Thank you very much. That was great.
Unfortunately, not done yet. Yeah, no, if you want to earn those free beers, Carter.
Oh, my God.
By the way, Super Chat Ken just bought you. So you see this. These are you guys doing this on YouTube, the Super Chat? This is just an amazing way.
We're YouTube virgins.
Yeah. Well, I tell me something I don't know, but I'm trying to help you out here.
We're making so much money off Patreon. It's hard.
Tony's just you don't get to keep this, unfortunately, the money that I'm about to talk to you about. But
I hope I made you some money.
You did. But here's what we do: is we spend the Super Chat money on beers, and so there's cold beers, as you saw in the green room, which you and I will enjoy one after the show. So Tony wants to buy you a beer, so she's kicked 5 into the Super Chat. She says Stephen Carter is a why are you guys making me read this shit? Stephen Carter is a national treasure. If you're looking for a third for the podcast, assuming that the ethics commissioner is going to tell, it's not going to be the ethics, it's going to be Mark Carney.
Mark Carney's going to be like,
it's not going to be the ethics commissioner.
I've been reading some transcripts, Mr. Hogan.
So you want to know? So we talked to Corey yesterday.
Yeah.
And I said, what is it? Because he's on our editorial board for Real Talk. And I said, so what does this mean for the editorial board? And he goes, like maybe not good. We received an unsolicited application from a credible candidate yesterday to join the editorial board. So everything's coming up roses for us. Now, replacing a third head on a three-headed monster on a podcast, maybe a little bit different. But Tony says if you're looking for a third for the podcast, she says, here I am. I'm opinionated and politically passionate. Tony attended our live event, which was our Real Talk patrons debate night viewing party at Arcadia Brewing Company. And Tony and I had a beer or two, and I can tell you she's an absolute riot, and she would be incredible on your pod if you're looking to.
I mean, if it was fun and entertaining, people wouldn't pay for it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But thanks, Tony. Yeah. Thank you.
So Les kicking $2 into the super chat. Thanks, Les. And super chat Ken, who's basically covering Johnny and my retirement with his super chat contributions. With $5 says, man, my wallet has taken a beating already this week. Thank you, Ken. We appreciate you. He says, but I do have to buy a beer for Carter. Hey, Carter, quit letting Zane buy domains. What's this? I must have missed this episode.
Every episode.
No, I must not listen that deep in.
So first of all, if you want to buy strategist merchandise,
well, you fucking knock it off.
You can go to westofcenter.ca.
Why are you selling it on their website?
It's our website.
Oh, you stole it from them?
I mean,
now I'm starting to get the joke.
Yeah, so we own all the websites. For example,
hey Johnny, can you show my screen right now? Westofcenter.ca. This site can't be reached. Congratulations,
okay.
Carter.
Well, did you spell center wrong?
Oh, did you spell it the American way?
I don't know.
Let's see.
We have westofcenter.ca.
CENTER.ca. No, not either.
That's very upsetting. We also own the CRA is politically motivated.ca.
You're like the progressive Ezra Levant?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
Like spending $1,000 a year on domains?
More than that. If we look at the total number of domains that we purchased over the course of the fiscal year, it's been a problem. And when
it's a business expense.
It's a business expense. It's a problem. And then any time that Zane thinks that there's something funny, he says, you can now visit blankety-blank.ca. And then during the recording of the podcast, we actually buy the site.
What's a domain? Like $21 or something, I think?
Well, we get discounts, brother.
You buy in bulk.
When you buy in bulk, you get some serious discounts.
You get discounts. We're going to break for a quick second here. If you need to top up your coffee, don't really, because it's going to take longer than we've got. So just stay here with me, okay?
Are we going to read some ad copy?
Why don't you go? Well, this is a fun one. So Wednesdays we partner with Tourism Jasper. So now I get to just talk about the mountains and mother. Everybody should know you're huge into the mountains. You love Jasper.
I love Jasper.
If you want, you can go grab a cold beer out of the fridge while I'm talking. If you feel free
to sit here and watch you read.
You don't drink at 9:30 in the morning.
I'm going to watch you read.
Weird. Okay. Well. So here's how you do it. So I'm going to pivot from the wide shot to the tight here, and I'm just going to let people know. Obviously, courtesy of our incredible friends at Tourism Jasper, weekly we present MyJasper Memories, and with Mother's Day fast approaching, if you don't mind, Real Talkers, I thought I'd get a little bit personal and talk to you about the amazing family memories that we have made in the crown jewel of the Canadian Rockies, that is Jasper National Park. I'm hoping to plant a seed with those of you that don't yet have a plan for Mother's Day. And I'm at this stage of life where I'm so blessed and so lucky to be able to celebrate my own mom and then be able to celebrate the mother of our children, my wife, Kerry, as well. And so I thought I'd just share a few memories through the years of us in Jasper. Beautiful dog walks around Lac Beauvert. That's my mom and dad. They love coming up to Jasper from Calgary because they can travel the Highway 93, easily the most beautiful highway in Canada. And we have logged so many miles walking around that path. Lac Beauvert at the beautiful Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge. There's our entire family. Look at that, 2 generations of moms, and boy, do we ever love our times in the signature cabins as well. You know, the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge has some special rates on right now and through till the end of the year on these signature cabins. That's a Ridgeline cabin right there. And just family time together. That's our beloved Moses. We miss our dear Moses, but when it was time to say goodbye to him, we took him out to Jasper. That's what you're seeing right there. Snuggles and cuddles in a beautiful cabin with the fire burning in the background. Carter, I burn fires year-round in my fireplace in Jasper, I'll tell you, because there is nothing better than hearing that crackle, family sitting around drinking some great wine, maybe taking some time away to get into the pool. This is Mama. That's Kerry right there with our newborn Noah. We've spent some beautiful time in Moline Canyon. Not an option at this exact moment based on their recovery from that wildfire last July. But these memories remain, and we can't wait to get back out there ourselves. Pyramid Lake. What an amazing destination. Obviously, this is a little earlier in the season for us. This is when the snow, the ice was still there, and we could take that sleigh ride. But Pyramid Lake in the summer is just absolutely stunning. Spirit Island, one of our favorite memories of all time. And the Moline region right now, again, the travel closed, access blocked on the roads as they recover from that disaster. However, a lot of the backcountry trails, a lot of the hiking and walking options are still open. You will never forget a trip out to Spirit Island as a family, celebrating Mom, or maybe even just taking some time under that May sunshine to sit out on a patio. Here we are outside. These are the lakefront suites, which we absolutely love. This is back at the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge. Just downtime. That's what Jasper is for us. It's downtime. It's fresh air. It's hearing the loons call. It's seeing the elk out there. There's nothing like Mother's Day in Jasper. Don't forget some time. You got to carve it out to wander the town site, the boutique, the local artists, the bakeries, the ice cream. Not just nostalgic. It's iconic. Cap it off with dinner at Terra or the Raven Bistro. They've got a beautiful new Moline Range distillery out there that I highly recommend. We absolutely love Evil Dave's. We've got our favorites. You probably have yours as well. The bottom line, if you want to treat Mom to something that feels as big and beautiful as your love for her, Jasper is the move. Mountain magic, fresh air therapy, and memories that will outlast any bouquet of flowers. You can plan your Jasper getaway today by visiting jasper.travel. MyJasper Memories, proudly presented weekly here on Real Talk by our amazing friends at Tourism Jasper.
Well, that was excellent. Teared up.
Yeah, I could see you crying.
I teared up. That was so good.
I didn't know what to do with myself.
Well, no, I love Jasper. Jasper's a great place. I'm really glad you partnered with them.
Yeah, no, it's.
I mean, the rest of your fucking sponsors are horrible, but this was a real step in the right direction.
Yeah, unfortunately, that concludes our interview with Stephen Carter.
Park, with the notable exception of Park Power.
Yes. It's sort of, I guess there's almost like a consensus that the Liberals didn't really run like a fantastic campaign. When you're beginning, I mean, they won a minority government, but they won nonetheless. I mean, they were in the toilet 3 months ago. So let's point that out. It's easily, I think, the most remarkable comeback in Canadian political history. Correct me if you've got another one in mind, but let's start with our autopsy of the Liberal campaign. There
is nothing more impressive than this comeback.
Yeah.
This was a 25-point swing. The Liberals were dead. And the Liberal vote is very efficient. So people always talk about the efficiency of the vote. That means you're not wasting votes. Like the Conservatives waste a lot of votes in Western Canada, right? In Alberta specifically. They run up the total, they rack up a huge number. But because the Liberal vote was so efficient, when you start dropping down into the low 20s, there was a really real possibility that the Liberals weren't going to be able to hold on to, even 20, 25 seats when you're dropping that fast. So the Liberals under Justin Trudeau were dead. The Liberals under Mark Carney won a minority government, almost a majority. So yes, we should critique their campaign. Their campaign lacked energy. It did not. It didn't have a lot of the kind of pieces that you would look at the Conservative campaign and say, well, there's some set pieces like major events that were really solid. They were very reluctant to put in a 10,000 person rally. Everything else was in small venues that would overflow. Calgary, we had a 2,000 person venue where 4,000 people signed up to try and show up to it. That's just not good planning. It's not good. It's not good politics, but that's the way that the Liberal campaign was run. Smaller venues, always overstuffing them, never taking a chance that they were going to be embarrassed.
How do you, as a strategist, and there's a difference too between being like a campaign manager and then a campaign, what do you call it, like a consultant, basically?
Yeah, basically.
But you consulted to the Carney camp, didn't you, through the course of this election?
Early on in his leadership.
Early on. And so what do you do in a circumstance like that? Do you bring like the Western perspective, or do you talk to them how to win on the prairies, or what sort of a role can you tell us about?
I mean, basically, I'm trying to bring in what's happening in Alberta.
Yeah.
And I was surprised by what was happening in Alberta. I honestly thought that we were going to see 4 or 5 seats in the province of Alberta.
338 Canada was aggregating polls showing they could win as many as 7.
Well, 338 Canada and I have our issues.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. My problem is that there's no local polling. You're taking national poll, you're breaking it down into its regional basis. That's as small as it gets. And then from that, you're trying to project from a very small number. You're trying to project 37 ridings in Alberta. And 37 ridings in Alberta is, they're all different. Calgary Confederation being the one that we won in Calgary.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But that was not the one we expected to win first. We expected to win Calgary McKnight.
Is that George Chahal?
That's George Chahal. Calgary McKnight, then Calgary Confederation, then Calgary Centre, then Calgary Skyview. There were 4 seats that we thought were in play. It turns out only one of them was really in play. Even George got pretty solidly beaten up. Lindsay Lanu in Calgary Centre got pretty beat up as well. But those seats, 338 was projecting as toss-up or better. 60% probability that the Liberals were going to win in Calgary McKnight.
So what sort of local polling were you privy to? Like, what did you have? So here's an interesting, I've told this story, I'll tell it in like 2 sentences, but when I was covering the 2015, I'll never forget, and I've told this audience before, I was kind of bummed out that I was assigned on Global TV that night to cover the NDP headquarters because I was expecting Prentice to kind of pull it off.
Of course.
Right? So I sort of thought I had the bum assignment, wound up being one of the most memorable nights of my career, obviously. But I remember that night being like, oh my gosh, oh wow. And then hearing from campaign strategists and managers that said the PCs and NDP have known that this result was coming for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's always the knowledge behind the scenes. Like, did Pierre Poilievre know on Monday night that he was losing?
Yeah.
Well ahead of time he knew?
Well, you started to see those stories leak out early about how they were calling in operatives. Those were true. Those stories were true. They were calling in operatives to try and make it work. We were pulling we were pulling operatives into Confederation, into Calgary Centre, into Calgary McKnight to make sure that we got over the top. It turned out that was a wasted effort and everything could have gone into Confederation.
So your polling was telling you that you guys were going to lose those ridings.
We thought we were very competitive in those ridings, keeping in mind that winning a Liberal seat in Alberta is still an uphill climb.
Yeah.
There is no gimmies in Alberta. I didn't think that Edmonton Centre would go. I thought that we would see Edmonton Southeast with Amarjeet Sohi way more outperform Edmonton Centre.
Hey, considering that Sohi is the incumbent mayor on leave, he got walloped.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what a statement.
Yeah.
What a statement. I mean, I know that Sohi has said that he's not going to run for mayor, now. But if he was going to run for mayor, that's over. That dream is over. If you can't win essentially Mill Woods, you're not going to win anywhere as an incumbent. That was an absolute beatdown, and the same for George Chahal. There's something that would happen in the Punjabi community that I don't understand, but the Punjabi community, which was a reliable Liberal bloc for a long time, suddenly became a less reliable Liberal bloc. I'm not sure why. It's a bit beyond me.
Johnny and I have been working with Vicky Mochama through the course of this election and have released a new show, Party All the Time. You can check it out on our YouTube channel. And I want to refer people, less than a week ago, she released an episode, The Diaspora Votes. And it was more focused in on the 905, but some great insights there into how ethnic communities factor into elections. That's not necessarily like a new thing. I remember that's one of the things people credit Jason Kenney with, is having a real astute understanding of that, right?
Minister of Curry in a hurry.
Yeah, Minister of Curry in a hurry, which I've always sort of thought, like, isn't that kind of a fucked up thing to say? But I digress.
Yeah, but I mean, the man understood. You literally break bread with those communities. You must eat. One of the wonderful things about campaigning in the ethnic communities is that you've never been fed so well in your life, because breaking bread and eating together is part of the experience of winning over a person's trust, of showing that we have a relationship, and that is fantastic. But it's terrible for the waistline.
Sure,
it's fantastic.
Everything I do is terrible for the waistline.
It's just absolutely terrible. But something happened. I think that the Liberal wave was not felt in those communities, and that might have had something to do with the immigration turnaround that has occurred over the last 18 months, where Justin Trudeau's Liberals put in place much more restrictive immigration standards. And a lot of Punjabi students are having to return to India.
So that's an interesting point. As we continue our autopsy of the Liberal campaign, I mean, I don't have to point out to you that if Alberta projections would have manifested into Liberal wins, you'd be looking at a majority government, right? Those 4 seats that didn't materialize in Alberta, what could have the Liberal campaign done differently on the prairies?
Well, I mean, one of the things that was missed, in hindsight, not a lot, because the gaps were so big. But when you're in the final days, in the final throes of the campaign, there was an event in Edmonton, and there was an event scheduled in Calgary that same day, the day after the tragedy in Vancouver, and we were canceled in Calgary. The thinking is that event may have been able to endear, the final voters to move to the Liberal Party. I don't think, in hindsight, that was viable, and I do think that it was the right decision to cancel that event in Calgary and go straight to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Given the circumstances, but I think everybody at that point felt like we were going to have at least 2 more seats, and those 2 seats would have been very meaningful, because the Lower Mainland did deliver. They delivered 20 seats for the Liberals. I think it's 6 or 8 more seats than they'd had coming into the election. So really only Alberta and Ontario really were the 2 areas that underperformed.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Could you see, like, isn't it, like somebody pointed out to me the other day, and I mean, I know this might be an obvious observation, but they say that, like, which I'm really good at, by the way.
Yeah, no, the obvious.
The most obvious.
I'm expecting the obvious from you.
Super good at the
nothing
obvious.
particularly in depth.
But, like, it's just kind of interesting, and especially if Pierre Poilievre were to return to seek a seat in a by-election in Alberta. But you've got an Edmonton born and raised prime minister. You've got a Calgary born and raised, or at least raised. I think born in Calgary. Was born in Calgary, right? And the family adopts him. Teachers raise him. Everybody knows the story. He went to high school with my brother. I'm not sure if you knew that. But so you've got, like, these 2 Alberta players on the political scene here. If Carney can earn the trust of Canadians, obviously many Canadians put their trust in him by giving him this mandate. But if he proves he can deliver, right? If he can actually, I mean, I don't think we're spending enough time talking about his one-liner in the victory speech, free trade in Canada by Canada Day. That's actually like a major thing. But let's say he delivers. This Edmonton born and raised guy, could you see an increased Liberal presence on the prairies, or did they miss their moonshot this time?
I'm not sure that the prairies are ever going to go to the Liberals in any major. Now, we're talking 4 seats, right? So if are there 4 more seats if we over?
But could you see Alberta sending a third of its MPs? Could you see like 11 of them?
No, absolutely not.
Ever, no matter the leader, no matter
ever's forever. All right, ever is an impossible period of time. But in the next 15 or 20 years, I think that we've been fed such a line around equalization, and we've been fed such a line about the hardship that has been imposed upon Alberta, that we continue to believe that the Liberals are in some fashion screwing us. Even when Stephen Harper behaves exactly the same way as every Liberal government towards Alberta. We didn't see massive pipeline development under Stephen Harper. In fact, every development that he tried to champion wound up being destroyed by the courts because we weren't doing the consultative process properly. I mean, we lost more pipelines under Stephen Harper than we ever lost under Justin Trudeau. Mm-hmm. People misremember these things, but people misremember everything. That's the beauty of being an Albertan. We always blame someone else. We blame the NDP for worldwide, price fluctuations in oil and gas. That's what we do here. We blame the wrong people. We should be looking inwards, and we should be looking across at the rest of the world and understanding our place in the world instead of pretending like we're some sort of challenged child of Confederation.
A lot of people, and this has been popping up in our live chat as well. People are referencing C-69, of course, which has been dubbed by conservatives as the No New Pipelines bill. People wondering if this dust up with the Americans and this trade war could lead to the increased energy access to tidewater, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, people want to know, would a Mark Carney government build another pipeline? It seems now with its position and maybe the bloc factoring into some of the politics that's going to be happening, that running a pipeline through Quebec is just absolutely not going to happen right now. Do you expect to see anything on that front in particular?
No, I don't. And more importantly, I'd like to see the proposal from the private industry to actually build one.
Yeah.
If you can bring me a private industry proposal to build a pipeline, then we should start talking about it as Canadians. But right now, the only option would be to have government build it. And I'm just not. I don't understand why Albertans are suddenly in favor of government-owned energy projects.
Yeah. That's a very fair comment. Ms. Katie, you're going to be absolutely smashed this morning if every time somebody kicks in $5 into the super chat, you actually drink the beer they're buying you.
Well,
but Ms. KD has just bought you a cold one, and she wants to know if you think that Jenny Byrne is done. Jenny Byrne, who basically ran Pierre Poilievre. I mean, she's Poilievre's chief strategist. I don't know what her actual job title is, but she's the one.
No, I mean, and she's proven her inability to pivot. She has proven that, when Pierre Poilievre won the leadership, the normal move would be for him to pivot towards the center.
Like Aaron O'Toole did.
Like every leader in the history of leaderships has done.
But O'Toole lost.
Andrew Scheer lost, so they decide not to pivot. And, Jenny Byrne and Pierre Poilievre know better than anybody else. They don't pivot. And then Mark Carney winds up winning the leadership. They still don't pivot. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. They don't pivot. They don't have the ability to pivot because Jenny Byrne and Pierre Poilievre are the worst marriage in political history. They cannot work together towards actually understanding where Canadians are because they aren't like Canadians. They're like the truckers. They're further to the right. And right now, if Pierre Poilievre stays on the same track that he's on, I see him only going down, not going up.
When you just said they're not Canadians, they're just like the truckers. What do you mean by that?
The truckers were a very small population of our overall Canadian population. The conservatism. We like to pretend that conservatism is one giant happy family. Conservatism is all about factions coming together to try and govern collectively together. Right. And so the Peter MacKay faction has decided to stay with the Pierre Poilievre faction. The Brian Mulroney faction hasn't. The Joe Clark faction of progressive conservatism is solidly in the Carney camp. Every one of the factions of conservatism is making their own choices. Right now, Pierre Poilievre has a large group of the conservatives, but it's almost impossible to hold them all at all times. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens in Quebec with the I don't want to say the rise of the BQ because it didn't really rise. It did shrink, but their last minute ability to hold on, I'd had them at 16 seats, and what did they finish at? 24. That's a significant shift. That's a significant shift in the last 3 weeks.
Let me keep you for a little longer. I want to talk to you about we have to conduct the NDP autopsy, and we got to talk some provincial politics because we've been talking almost exclusively federal politics for the last month, but there's a lot going on.
Checking my
right
Venmo,
now.
See how much you've sent to me.
Yeah. Well, just no, it's all the beers, Carter. The longer you stay, the more beers you get. You work your way up to a case. You work your way up to 12, and then you walk out of here. Bob's your uncle. Stephen Carter hanging out with us. You can check out decidecampaigns.com for more on what he does. There's a lot of talk about money and bottom lines, government spending, and the like. But, of course, I want to talk to you about saving for a second. I want to talk to you about effective wealth management. That's what the team at North Road Investment Council does, a steady hand and a studied voice to guide you through wealth and investing. In Canada, and you see this all the time, it's pretty typical for investment advice and financial planning to be delivered through a bank or a bank-owned brokerage firm. But Marshall and Kerry and the team at North Road want to give successful savers and investors a chance to experience wealth management advice on a platform of true independence. Now, through the support of professionals, CFPs, CFAs, your financial plan will be delivered in connection to an hourly fee and not from commissions paid from investment products. That's just one of the things that makes North Road Investment Council different. Another big one, their digital risk advisory services. They're leaders in this space within the wealth management industry. They have a full-time team member just ensuring that their clients are making better and safer choices in their digitally connected life. You can learn more how they go above and beyond on their website at northroadic.com. You want to talk about people that are the best in the business? Nobody does custom closets and storage solutions better than California Closets. Whether you're looking for a new installation, an entertainment center that wows your guests, maybe in time for the Stanley Cup Finals, just saying. Maybe you need a Murphy bed in your home office, or maybe you'd love to turn your garage around to a space that's actually organized and usable. A quick and free consultation with a California Closets designer is the first step toward turning your space, transforming your space into one that you may not even recognize, one that you will love, and of course will increase value to your biggest investment as well. You can request that free consultation today. Learn more about how California Closets can work with any budget by checking out their website, californiaclosets.ca. It's barbecue season, and our friends at Friesen Brothers have you covered. They're restoring the lost art of butchery by training a new generation of skilled butchers who break whole hanging carcasses using time-honored techniques. Their craftsmanship delivers exceptional cuts of dry-aged Alberta beef known for its rich flavor and tenderness, each piece carefully aged to bring out its best qualities, and you have options. 30 days, 60 days, even 90 days aged. Talk to a Friesen Brothers butcher today to learn more about dry aging and why it makes such a difference in every bite. Don't forget the first of every month. Oh, Johnny, I love what you're showing us here. This is that patron party, Carter. Check this out at Arcadia Brewing Company. Real Talk patrons taking in the debates, and we tapped our friends at Friesen Brothers on the shoulder, and boy, did they ever deliver. This is catering by Friesen.com. Unbelievable spread. Look at that charcuterie. Are you kidding me? The best tzatziki in the business. And those chicken skewers wowed us all. Friesen Brothers has you covered no matter what the occasion. You can find them online or in person. Alberta grown and Alberta owned. And we want to give a big shout out to our friends at UCAN Youth Services. We're so excited to see the work that they're doing, literally transforming, changing the lives of young adults and young people that are in vulnerable situations, people that could use a door to open in front of them every once in a while. You can check out how they're doing that at ucan.ca. I especially want to feature their relentless outreach work here. This is work with the 50 12 to 17-year-olds that are most interacting with the Edmonton Police Service. These are young people, I'm going to speak candidly, that are on a road to ruin. But the team at UCAN is making sure that that's not happening. They're working with these youth to empower them in making positive, healthy, and life-changing decisions. And they're looking for partners, employers that are hiring young people in entry-level positions, donors, volunteers. You can check it out and learn more about UCAN Youth Services on their website at ucan.ca.
You know, I mean, the tzatziki opportunity. Why doesn't anybody buy me tzatziki?
Yeah, well, because you didn't have it on your rider, right? See, that's mistake number one. But that's the thing.
I did have coffee on my rider, and then I find out that I can't actually fill a cup of coffee during your ad reads.
You know what you're going to be really pissed off about is when you find out that on our most recent episode, the 29th of April, the morning after the election, we had our group chat roundtable in here. We had champagne on ice, fresh, cold-pressed orange juice. We had croissant. We had coffee. We had Baileys.
You had Corey Hogan, so that brought it all down.
It brought it all down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because I'm here, this is way better as a show.
The numbers are indicating that Real Talkers are connecting with you in a way that maybe they didn't connect with the newly elected MP out of Calgary.
He's got to watch his P's and Q's.
Yeah, he's going to be a whole new Corey now. He's going to have to be a little bit more.
He always was on the podcast like he was eventually going to run somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was annoying. Is what it was. Yeah. Zane and I let it all hang out, and Corey would always be like, no, they're not our sponsor. Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah, he was always the voice that was always like, as you guys were mocking different airlines as an example, he's always the one that's in there that's like, what he is he's the small print.
He is the small print.
He's the fine print.
He's the fine print on all of our contracts.
Which every team can use.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We got a lawyer in there?
Yeah, we don't have a lawyer as a sponsor, but
we need a lawyer as a sponsor. If you're listening right now,
we just pay for our legal services.
I bet it's expensive.
Well, it has been.
I think so.
Not currently right now, but you never know. Things could change.
End of this episode, baby.
End of this episode. We've still got some runway. Heather McPherson will return to Ottawa as the lone NDP member of Parliament in the same riding that sent Linda Duncan to Ottawa before. Edmonton Strathcona loves its NDP members of Parliament, but I know that party was hoping to do better, not just across the country, but in Alberta with some reasonably well-known candidates. Obviously, an incumbent in Edmonton that lost. Where does the autopsy here start? I mean, this one is a little bit more like,
oh my God.
Ooh, this one's a little bit more like it didn't. This party wasn't hit by a bus in an intersection. This party died a slow death.
It was being dragged by the bus down the street for the better part of 6 years.
Yeah.
This Jagmeet Singh was not a good leader. And that is, I don't say that to be overly critical or overly, down on the guy. I think, just a handsome couple. The two of them got up there, he and his wife get up there on election night, and you go, Jesus, good looking people. They are part of the Canadian experience and Canadian identity that I can really get behind. But the guy couldn't lead. His supply agreement with the Liberals in the last election tied his hands behind his back. It was the easy way out, where they didn't have to work every single vote to win the NDP's support, and it was a gimme away from something that was actually valuable to something that was not valuable, and they made themselves. They made themselves irrelevant, and that's the number one thing that you can't do in politics, is make yourself irrelevant. And the result, 7 seats.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only were they bleeding seats to the Liberals, they were also bleeding seats to the Conservatives. Windsor and
that's weird, right?
Well, the orange-blue shift is always something that has confused me. I find it, they just jump. A lot of orange voters actually hate the Liberals more than they hate the Conservatives.
Well, it's kind of like Alberta as a whole, or let me say Edmonton. Let me say Edmonton as a whole, because Edmonton votes almost exclusively Conservative federally. 2 ridings, back-to-back ridings in the center. Same as Calgary, by the way, back-to-back, same deal. But at the same time, you've like here in Edmonton, they send almost virtually nothing but Conservatives to Ottawa, but then they send almost nothing but NDP to the Alberta legislature. And I've honestly, doing this 20 years, I still can't figure it out.
Don't try and understand the voter. The voter has different reasons to vote. I remember, Vitor Marciano, who was an old strategist for the Wild Rose Party,
and hilarious.
Yeah, and completely incapable. He would spend time.
He's Energy Minister Brian Jean's chief of staff right now, isn't he?
Well, I mean, someone had to do it.
Well, I just want to provide context for the audience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not doing that good a job if he hasn't been fired yet, right? Like, believe me, we have different standards.
Okay.
But for me, he would always say, "Oh, look, the Conservatives in Alberta aren't conservative enough because look at all these votes that go to the federal Conservatives." And I'm like, no, people have different motivations. They have a different motivation. The federal government does not impact us in Alberta almost at all. If it did impact us, the fisheries minister isn't coming by and kind of letting us know things. The Ministry of National Defense isn't a significant part of our daily experience. We experience things on a daily basis in healthcare, education, social services, and those things we are far more progressive on. And then when we get to even civic government become way more progressive. So we get to vote in multiple ways and not have to justify it to anybody but ourselves. And I think that that's part of the joy of actually having a solid campaign team.
So where does the NDP from here? I remember, I'm referencing kind of this is a throwback, but like Nikki Ashton. I remember when a lot of people were looking at her like she could be the future of the party, but she had her own struggles on election night, and she's gone. And you sort of look, and I know some people are like, well, Charlie Angus maybe, and I mean he's obviously did that interview with Midas Touch that went totally viral, and just popped off, and he's kind of a likable guy, a bit of a rock and roller, but I don't know if that's the guy you go with, respectfully. I say this as a future one myself, but do you go old white guy with the next leader of the NDP? I don't know. Where's your thoughts on where that party needs to start growing?
Already the references that I've heard to Heather McPherson are solid. The number of people who are talking about her as a potential leader from Western Canada, from Edmonton, that would be a clean sweep for party leaders from the province of Alberta.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty solid. I mean, really, prime ministers come from either Quebec or from Alberta. That seems to be the model. So, I mean, Heather McPherson would be a solid choice. I'm not sure who else you go to. I don't think that Charlie Angus can lead. I don't think someone from outside of caucus can lead. I think that there are 7 people who could lead, and at least 3 or 4 of them might be looking to jump ship to the Liberals. Yeah. Who the hell knows?
So can you see a reality over the next year or two where Canada is legitimately kind of a 2-party landscape? I mean, this election, it essentially, with respect to the Bloc, but it essentially was a 2-party landscape. Can you see it going further down that road if the NDP does ultimately just wither?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. There's we're seeing that shift in provincial politics too, Ryan. I mean, we've gotten to a 2-party state in Alberta. We got into a 2-party state in British Columbia. Still 3 parties technically in Ontario. but basically everywhere else is 2. And then Quebec is fascinating because we're seeing rise and fall of parties so very quickly that you're not even able to see them survive very long at all.
Yeah, how did Alberta get to where it's at? This is such a smooth segue for us to start talking provincial politics. Do you see that? It's almost like people didn't even notice.
Oh my
that
God!
We were just we just went
you
from
write that
federal
down.
to
That's
provincial.
some
If we could just
amazing stuff.
write it on the whiteboard.
Maybe highlight that.
What we'll do is we'll
to
send
show
you
up in the YouTube later in the shorts.
Sort of after this
Yeah.
is we'll get ChatGPT to generate it, but we'll send you kind of a synopsis of like how Jespersen deftly made his way through the interview with
moving
you.
away from the shitty NDP.
Do you know what I mean? Right into the provincial NDP.
Check the comments and see how people.
I think people are probably responding like Jespersen's just nailing this.
Yeah.
He's probably doing. Yeah, look at this. Exactly.
I
All
don't
these.
see
I
any of
don't
those
want to
green-
read all of them.
I don't see the green spots for beer.
Yeah, that's weird. There haven't been any super chats
Okay, well,
when we've started talking
let's see
about
if we can do anything.
my hosting. That's weird. That's so strange.
I don't understand it.
We do see back-to-back comments where I see one, Shelby says Charlie Angus has the Riz, and Kenzie says that Charlie Angus is a horrendous creature. So not everybody. There's no consensus there.
I don't
but
know what the Riz is.
Oh, Carter. Are you serious? The Riz?
I'm an old white man. What do you want
well,
from me?
you're going to have to learn to talk like Gen Z if you want to get their votes.
I honest to God don't care about their votes.
Yeah, if it's
I
like
have
the Riz is like the swagger, right? Like he's got but you can have you can have negative Riz or no Riz. You can have low Riz. You can have positive Riz, hot Riz. You got the Riz.
So does Danielle Smith have the Riz?
Am I qualified? Johnny's younger than me. Does Danielle Smith have the Riz? I don't.
Riz is it's short for charisma. That's what it means.
Yeah.
So
I have it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's good to know.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, no.
He's letting you down easy.
What do you mean? How many beers have been bought for me so far?
Like 6 or 7 at least.
Yeah, so shut up. How many have been bought for you?
I think probably 0.
You got the guy who gave $2.
If we're being honest,
that's good. That's pretty good.
Okay. So you got this interesting scenario in Alberta right now where you did have like the Alberta Party and the Alberta Liberals, which were like not a joke for
the Alberta Liberals,
a number of years.
They were the ones who were supposed to win in 1993.
Right. Then you always had kind of the right wing conservative, like the grassroots party, and then obviously you had the PCs and you had the NDP and this and the other. It was like, and elections would produce MLAs from all of those parties typically.
Oh yeah.
And now it's just like absolutely not a thing. It's not even something that people talk about anymore.
Well, the New Democrats aren't the New Democratic Party of old. Under Nenshi's leadership, I think that they are moving slowly to the center. I don't think that they have defined themselves yet under Nenshi's leadership. I think that that's still something that has to come.
What's he doing, by the way?
It's a great question. He's not leading. He's not creating a sense of excitement around the New Democrats. And I think that he's not yet defined it. If you take a look at what John Horgan did, John Horgan, Rachel Notley, each of them defined their party in their own image, separate and apart from Jagmeet Singh. But Naheed Nenshi hasn't defined it at all, whether a part of it or not part of it. So it's, for me, I just think that Nenshi he has not yet defined the party, and that's something that's really unique because he was the person who defined Calgary politics for a good decade.
You see this?
That was for you?
Yeah, that's for me.
I want you to be just so proud of yourself.
That's $5 from Will, who says, Jespo, I heard you're much more handsome and intelligent than your guest. He also lets me know that he'll submit his reimbursement request later today.
Yeah, okay.
Which I'll be happy to pay with interest.
Yeah, I think you will.
Will didn't want to leave me hanging there, so I appreciate that.
Did I shit on Will earlier?
No, I think you were. You shit on Kenneth mercilessly, and then
Kenneth has stopped listening to this podcast.
Yeah. By the way, Redneck Philosopher was in there, and he said the truckers are not Canadian, and then he called you a word that we don't use on the show. It's the R word, and I encourage everybody to eliminate that from their vocabulary. But
I think that Redneck Philosopher just showed that he's not really part of the Canadian diaspora here.
Yeah.
I'm not super thrilled with his ability to fit in with Canadian society if he's throwing words around like that.
Yeah. Can I also just point this out, and I've said it on the show before, is that the truckers, listen, I can respect, there are people that felt alienated, that were losing their businesses, that weren't able to see their families. Some folks had their parents die in palliative care and they weren't able to visit. Like, everyone's got a story. And there were people that I think participated in those demonstrations. And I'm not necessarily talking about the people in the hot tub in downtown Ottawa in the occupation or stockpiling propane tanks. I'm not necessarily talking about that, but I'm saying that people without a lot of political experience, a lot of political insight, unsure of exactly even who was to blame, right? Blaming Justin Trudeau for something that was at a municipal level or at a provincial health authority, whatever. But the point I'm making is a lot of people needed an outlet and they needed something to participate in. And so they participate in this convoy. But what they really were doing is they were wrapping themselves in the Canadian flag, and they were like commandeering the Canadian flag, and they were using words like patriot all the time. And now, not all of them, but a lot of the exact same people are talking about leaving Canada. They're talking about Alberta as the 51st state.
They were never patriots.
They're the worst kind of
patriot. They were patriots in the American sense of what do I get for being a patriot.
Yeah.
That's what they were. They weren't actual patriots that said, the real patriots right now, I was shocked how many Liberal doorsteps have a Canadian flag hanging out in front because we're standing up and saying, oh my God, we are going to be Canadian in the face of the Donald Trump threat. Those Canadians that were wrapping themselves in the Canadian flag during those protests, even the ones that happened last summer on the various highways, Highway 2 and Highway 1 here in Alberta, they were flying the Canadian flag upside down. They were flying the fuck Trudeau sign more than they were flying the Canadian flag. They were airing grievance. They were not building country. And that is a significant difference, and one that I fucking take advantage. If you want to do something, if you wish to be heard politically, there are political outlets for you. And if you don't understand where they are, if you think that they're beyond you, just volunteer. Every single person who volunteered on Corey Hogan's campaign has Corey Hogan's ear. Every single person that volunteered on Kerry Diotte's campaign has Kerry Diotte's ear. You will find yourself heard if you decide to make yourself valuable. And when you choose to make yourself valuable, you become an influencer in our society instead of being someone who is not valued, who's standing on the outside throwing shit in. I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of it. It is not an insurmountable barrier to get involved. It is not. It is not by some elite group. The number of people who were there's a guy on Corey Hogan's campaign who'd had a stroke, and he couldn't communicate, right? Unable to communicate, but every single day he volunteered. He came in every day and did what he could, and he will be heard. I mean, not, verbally.
Easy, Carter. Jesus, man.
Story got away.
Is this actually a guy, or did you just make that
up?
No,
it's really a guy.
This wasn't all a bit?
No, it wasn't a bit.
Okay.
It was really touching.
The UCP's Bill 54 it has overhauled election laws in the province to allow union and corporate donations. I can argue that from both sides. But it also changes referendum thresholds, which is really interesting. And so now the threshold, so here's the deal. If you want to spark a referendum in Alberta, you used to have to get 600,000 signatures, which is a tall task.
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
600,000 signatures. Well, the government has lowered it to just 177,000 signatures, and the window to gather those signatures has been extended from 90 days, from 3 months, to 120 to 4 months. So they're giving you 4 months to get less than a third of the signatures you used to have to get, and everybody with half a brain knows exactly what this is all about.
Yeah, I mean, this is embarrassing. It's just absolutely embarrassing to be offering this over to the people of Alberta at a time when Preston Manning is arguing about separation. Danielle Smith is actively courting separatists. When did the Conservative Party, the UCP, become the party of separation, the party that couldn't work within Confederation, the party that has been in power essentially for 50 years out of the last 54, is in some way running around, poor me, I can't work in Confederation anymore. I have too much money. I have too much influence. I have too much power. I mean, grow up. Just grow up. And now it takes 170,000 people to cause a referendum. I'll tell you something. The 3 million people that vote will have something to say about it. Bring it. Bring it. Put it onto every election you can, because every single election that you put the referendum question on, I'm going to fucking win. Every question that you put onto it makes it easier for me. So thank you, Danielle.
Take us into the strategy.
Thank you for that.
Take it. So I know that this is not just bluff and bluster from you.
Not
so
at all.
how does it make? How does that question? And by the way, okay. So how would it be worded? Because it's going to be a yes/no question, right? Would the question be something?
Oh,
like,
it'll be lukewarm.
It won't be. But it won't be. Do you support? Do you support Canada's existing role in Confederation? It would be something. They don't want that to be a yes. They want the yes to be a separate question, right? Don't you want the yes?
Oh, but it
because
won't
yes
even be
comes
that.
across as inspiring, right? So you want the yes to be the vote yes to leave. But if you look at referendum questions, they're obviously a lot of times they're obfuscated. They're designed to be confusing for people to achieve an outcome, right?
Do you want the government of Alberta to pursue a tactical enterprise of trying to gain more from Confederation through active talks of leaving Confederation? Yes or no? I mean, just something that just goes on and on and on and on and has multiple points in it that you don't really understand. And then at the end, it's yes or no. And it won't matter what the question is. Ultimately, what it does strategically is gives me a rallying point when so many people before were saying, well, I can't beat the UCP. I can't beat them. Well, now all of a sudden I got a rallying point where I can get around that. And I also get a rallying point where I can run a TPA, or third-party advertiser, against that particular question. Raise additional money on top of the party money that I'm able to raise. And there's corporate and union into all of those.
So the TPA, this third-party advertiser, would be like, My Canada includes Alberta or something, or whatever you're going to call it. Albertans for Canada.
Yeah.
Johnny, can you just go by albertansforcanada.org?
.ca. Yeah, and .org.
And .org.
Just get everything. Just get it all.
Whatever our budget
and
allows
have it
for.
point to westofcenter.ca.
Yeah, and how
it doesn't work.
And
Apparently.
so you would just run billboards and digital ads, and you'd be all over. You'd be running ads on TikTok and Instagram and everything else. You'd be trying to hit people everywhere, saying what?
Saying that essentially Alberta needs to stay is Canada. Canada is Alberta.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, another $5 here.
For you?
Well, I guess let's find out. This is from Noob. Try again. It says, Jesper, once you drink your beer that Noob's buying for me, says you can use the empty mug to catch tears from all the insults you had to bear. Getting shit talked by my own audience.
I'll tell you something. Your audience is really my audience today. It's
Thank you,
it's shifted quite a bit. I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
I mean, you've assembled this show. You've got a beautiful studio.
We do have a beautiful studio constructed by the team at Complete Care Restoration.
Complete Care Restoration.
Yeah, you know what, Stephen? As a matter of fact, the team at Complete Care. Well, let me just tell you here, with more than 25 years of experience restoring properties and rebuilding peace of mind, the team at Complete. This is how you do it, right? This is all going to be in the synopsis.
Oh my God.
This is all going to be in the show notes.
My nipple's hard.
Yeah. Well, thanks. If hard nipples have cut into the drywall of your basement while you've been hanging posters,
nice.
They're not going to like this one. You're going to want to visit CompleteCareRestoration.ca. Whether it's nipple cut drywall, smoke damage, black mold, or otherwise, the team at Complete Care Restoration will work directly with your insurance company to take that headache off your hands. Restoring properties, rebuilding peace of mind for more than a quarter century. It's Complete Care Restoration at CompleteCareRestoration.ca. Sorry, you were saying?
I got to tell you something. That was possibly ever seen in my life.
Thanks. That was pretty good.
I was very proud of you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So you can take your $5 and I'll take whatever we just got paid
for that. No, this is good. I mean, whatever you got paid for that.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands, I would think.
Well, yeah, that's private, unfortunely. So if
I was on the editorial board, would I know that?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to join.
If you're well, you have to be invited first.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. So if you're Naheed Nenshi, you're looking at this scenario right now and you're going, okay, I could hit him on this and this and this. You got the Alberta Health Services, the alleged scandal that's being investigated by the RCMP now, which is obviously a pretty big deal. And I've seen a lot of people. This is just John and Jill Q Public leaving comments on virtually every post around things like the referendum, Bill 54, et cetera. They're saying all they're doing is trying to distract from the very real challenges, the existential challenges that this government's facing if some of this stuff proves to be true.
Well, and it's significant. I think that it is going to be proven to be true in some fashion. It is a significant issue, and someone needs to stand up against it.
What does that look like, though?
Well, it doesn't look like what Naheed Nenshi's doing. Naheed Nenshi has created little two-word slogans that I can't even remember, corrupt care or something like that.
Yeah.
It's not tying Danielle Smith to it. He's got to tie Danielle Smith to the corruption.
Don't you have to call her like dastardly Danielle Smith or something like that? Isn't that what they do these days? Carbon tax Carney, sneaky Pete Buttigieg.
Well, I think that works for the right. I'm not sure that works for the left. I think that the center and the left are looking for a little bit more
cerebral,
a little more and also evidence based, right? They need to. The NDP need to start prosecuting this case in public. And that's what they need to, they need to put 10 researchers on this and start prosecuting the absolute case. And if you do that, then I think that everything shifts. Everything shifts for the better for the NDP. Right now, just kind of trying to out-conservative the Conservatives is just a wasted effort.
Reboot Alberta in the live chat says the Western Standard. This is Derek Fildebrandt's media outlet says the Western Standard.
It's Derek Fildebrandt's website.
Okay.
Thank you. It's not a media outlet.
I didn't say it's a news outlet.
You said it's a media outlet.
I said it's a media outlet.
That's like calling the strategist a media outlet.
Well, you are.
Well, I'm not accepting that. We have
media does not equal journalism. Yeah, that's media.
Yeah, they think they're journalists.
Yeah, okay. Well,
they have a website.
Yeah, okay. So on Derek Fildebrandt's website, the Western Standard, Reboot Alberta says they intend to take a lead role in the Alberta Wants Out campaign. I feel like this is, people keep saying it's not a thing. Senator Paula Simons posted the other day, said this is not a thing.
It's not a thing.
And she figures that media, again, I'm paraphrasing. These are not her exact words, but she's irritated that shows like this are even talking about it. She says it's not a thing. Quit talking about it. Quit giving it oxygen. But I'll tell you, people are walking up to me on the street. Somebody walked up to me on the street, complete stranger yesterday, and brought it up. And I know that it's not, even if it's 25%.
250,000 people, Ryan.
You think that's capped?
And I'll tell you something. Derek Fildebrandt's looking at that 250,000 people, and he's thinking to himself, I can Ezra Levant this fucking thing. I can Ezra Levant this thing and turn 250,000 people into 100,000 subscribers to my rag.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be able to get that 100,000 people to pay me, what, $6 a month, $5 a month, $4 a month? And that's real money. And that's all he's trying to do is capitalize on a small minority of the population that honestly believe through some sort of manipulation that they are aggrieved within this great confederation.
What did you make of Ezra Levant's performance at the debate?
Oh, when he got kicked out?
Yeah, where he came in and rabble-roused and
Ezra Levant is a clown. He's an absolute clown. He's been a clown forever. After 2012, he had to eat crow because he was convinced that Danielle Smith was going to win that election. I told him he was wrong. This was back when he was with a quasi respectable news organization.
Sun News?
Yeah. Quasi.
Well,
I said it was quasi.
It didn't last long.
Didn't last, but he was eating crow that day, and he's been turning himself into a clown ever since.
So in closing, because I just checked the time for the first time in a long time, and we've kept you much longer than we asked you to stay for. But
jeez, I got to work at some point.
When shows are rolling like this, you don't stop them. You don't stand in the way. If I've learned anything,
okay.
Ms. B, by the way, in two parts, divulges in our live chat, powered by Park Power, that she donated more than 100 hours of her volunteer time to the Corey Hogan campaign.
Well, thank you, Ms. B.
Then asked that I roll out an unscientific, unofficial Twitter poll asking who folks prefer on Real Talk, you or me, which I will absolutely not do. Like politicians, you advise, why would I ever stick my neck out on something where the best case scenario is I barely preserve my dignity?
Plus, I've got an unlimited joke budget and probably would have bought 10 million votes.
Yeah, exactly. You'd use all your burner accounts.
Oh, my God.
You'd use all your burner accounts.
It'd be epic. It'd be like, you would get 20%.
Yeah.
I'd be at 80.
Obviously, we've welcomed you on the show. It's typically you give us your time a few times a year. So you and I will speak again before the municipal elections, and there's going to be a lot happening in Edmonton.
Well, I understand you're hosting something tomorrow.
I am. I'm hosting a couple of things.
That's why I'm here. I'm here to watch Ryan Jespersen.
Are you helping me tee up the events that I'm hosting? Listen, here's what I'm doing. So on May 1st, I'm going to be at the Edmonton Convention Center hosting the Capital Conversation, which is essentially, it's being put on by the Tim Cartmel camp. And Tim Cartmel, I think at this point, it's obvious to appoint him at this point as the front runner in the Edmonton mayoral race, a sitting city councilor, a professional engineer, et cetera, kind of seen as a bit of a steady Eddie type guy. He's not bombastic, but he's not wacko, to borrow a word from Pierre Poilievre. I think people are going to look at him as somebody that can hopefully get Edmonton's budget back on track. There will be other contenders in that mayoral race. race, and we will see who they are. Everybody's expecting Andrew Knack to throw his hat into the ring, and we'll see who else puts it out there. But I would describe it as a wide open race right now. I think that a formidable candidate could come in with big name recognition and do all right or have a fighting chance. In Calgary, everybody knows you managed Jyoti Gondek's campaign. She won. You were her chief of staff for like 5 minutes.
Maybe 3 minutes.
3 minutes, and then fired unceremoniously and unexpectedly. You've told us before on the show you didn't see it coming.
Did not.
So I don't know if there's some bad blood there or
there
not.
Is.
Okay, so what, she is. Has she announced she's running again?
She's running
right?
again.
She's running again.
There's 5 candidates in Calgary.
Okay, and so give us the lay of the land in Calgary and whatever observations you can offer in Edmonton of what you're expecting to see this fall. That's the next big election we'll be talking about.
I think everybody's expecting Andrew Knack to announce in the next 10 days.
Yeah.
So that'll make a race, which will be interesting. Edmonton, I think, is going to be a 1 or 2, 2-person race.
What's the choice between Cartmel and Knack in your estimation as a non-Edmontonian?
I don't actually know Andrew Knack that well.
He is the nicest guy.
I've met him exactly one time.
He's so sincere. He's the exact type of person that you want in politics. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's generous. He's gracious. He's well-spoken. He loves knocking on doors. I just respectfully don't know. I think he is a phenomenal city councilor, and I think he's going to have to work to convince people that he can be the mayor. That's as fair of an assessment as I'll give at this point.
It is fascinating because this is one of the challenges we faced with Gondek in 2021. How do you get a councillor to appear mayoral?
Yeah.
And there is a real challenge to that because a councillor by definition is appearing to be one of 14. And a mayor is one, period. And this is a opportunity that councillors often fail with. If you take a look in 2010 when Nenshi beat, I believe it was 4 existing councillors. In 2021, we beat 3 existing councillors. Councillors running and losing is more the norm than councillors running and winning. Here will be interesting because you got 2 existing councillors facing off against each other. In Calgary, though, we have failed candidate Jeremy Farkas, failed candidate Jeff Davison, coming back for another smack at it. Sitting councillor Sonia Sharp running against Jyoti Gondek, and then Brian Thiessen, who's an outsider who I'm working with.
Yeah, okay.
So smart money's on Brian.
What's an outsider? Sometimes outsiders have a better chance. Mark Carney. He's not like an outsider in the sense that he was like obviously was sort of working with the government, but he wasn't like a member of the cabinet or the caucus. He was by definition he's an outsider.
But and we have this mythology around the outsider, right? If only we could get better people to run.
Yeah,
it's one of the things that I'm sure I've heard on this show. Everybody's always saying, if only we could find better people to run.
Totally.
Well, in this particular case, Brian Thiessen is the better person who's running. He's giving up his lucrative law practice to do community service, which is what he pledged to do 25 years ago when he got into law school. So this is the story of redemption or giving back to community that we've all looked for in our politicians that we haven't seen before.
Okay, so you're obviously running a candidate against Jyoti Gondek and Jeremy Farkas and the like. So I understand that on Alberta's most popular political podcast on Real Talk that you're going to come in that you're going to come in here and you're going to take swipes and you're going to take shots at the other candidates. But failed candidate Jeremy Farkas, there's a lot of people that believe that this is Jeremy Farkas's race to lose, and he's used his time out of politics over the past few years to kind of reinvent his image, to accomplish some significant things. You don't think he has a real good shot?
The party system has been brought in Alberta, and he has chosen to run outside of the party system, and that means he's going to lose.
But nobody even understands.
Doesn't matter what you're used to.
So is it just the war chest?
Doesn't matter what you know.
Is it the war chest?
It only matters what I know.
So how is the party?
And what I know is that the party system gives me ground game.
Okay.
In 14 out of 14 ridings, or 12 out of 12 in Edmonton. The party system gives me access to twice as much money. Literally twice. We have spending caps for the first time in Alberta. Not that Jeremy Farkas is necessarily going to get to the spending cap. It's a very generous spending cap. But I have a party spending, a mayoralty candidate spending, and all the candidates spending. Like, you can't compete if you're a single candidate running in this election. Jyoti Gondek, Jeremy Farkas, Andrew Knack, and Jeff Davison have all decided to tie both arms behind their back and not run a party. Sonia Sharp has decided that she's only going to run half of a party, whereas Brian Thiessen has said, I'm going to have 14. That's a major difference in this election.
It's kind of it's like an interesting scenario because you've got like you're starting parties, but it's the candidates that are starting parties. There's no existing parties already, right? So you've got so now is it the Tim Cartmel party? Is it the Jyoti Gondek party?
Yeah,
like
if he becomes identified with the mayoralty leader.
But there's no such thing as like this is like the Better Edmonton party or the Calgary for the Future party, and they may have these names, but it's like we've never before seen in our lifetime a whole bunch of political parties with no pre-existing history or identity. We have no understanding of them except for who the leader is.
But that's how it works in British Columbia. That's how it works in Quebec. That's how it works. You know, when these parties start up, they're identified with the persona of the leader, right? The mayoralty candidate becomes the brand of the party. As Nenshi is the brand of the New Democratic Party in Alberta. As Danielle Smith is the brand of the United Conservative Party. Right, as Kevin Falcon was the failed brand of the BC Liberals. Right, the leader becomes the brand, and when you have the party structure, that party. And people will say, "I hate the party structure. I don't want it to come." Okay, name the independents who won in the last election in federal. We didn't talk about any independents winning.
Yeah,
you know why? Independents can't compete. We don't talk about independents winning provincially.
You know who I think of? I think of Brent Rathgaber.
Yeah.
Remember, he was like I don't know if he was a star under Harper, but he was a lawyer out of St. Albert, and he was like a certainly well respected.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what he dug his heels in on. Do you remember? It was something. He dug his heels in on something.
Meaningless.
And I remember interviewing him on a terrestrial radio show right around the time it happened, and he was sitting as an independent, and then people may remember that he ran again as an independent as a very popular politician in St. Albert and was beaten by his former aide, Michael Cooper.
Well, and we live with that stain to this day. But the same thing happened in this election. Mike DeYoung wasn't greenlit by the Conservative Party in his home riding, and he chose to run as an independent. This guy was a BC finance minister, ran for the leadership of the BC Liberals twice. He is a dyed-in-the-wool Abbotsford guy, and he got his ass handed to him.
Yeah.
Because parties have more strength, parties are easier to understand, and I don't care what the political elites say, oh, I don't like them, or the politically interested say. I don't like them. I don't want them to come to politics. They're here. Danielle Smith brought them. Danielle Smith gave us this gift or this curse, whichever way you want to
Sounds
look
like
at it.
it's a gift to you.
It's a gift to me, but I know how to work politics, right? It's not a gift to Jeremy Farkas because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
He's a regular on this show, in
say hi to Jeremy.
In our live chat.
He's a regular on our Discord.
He's going to have words for you. Yeah.
He's on our Discord for the strategist too. I'll take his $6 a month.
Jeez, Steven. This is like the longest episode we've done in a long time, but time flies when we're hanging out.
I didn't get a single refill on my coffee.
I know it's because of all of our producers right now. They're outside working on different things. The whole team, all 6 of them. The producers behind the scenes that we never
could have brought me something.
We never show them on camera.
When I do West of Center this week, I'm gonna get them to bring me coffee.
Yeah, give them a heads up that none of the websites are working.
I'm pretty angry.
Probably
about
why
this
you
whole
haven't
situation.
sold any merch in a year and a half.
We have this new product says Carter is for sale.
Yes.
You can buy the hat.
Yeah, I'll just let everybody know that if you do go to ryanjespersen.com/merch, you can check. Look at this. We got T-shirts. We got snapback caps. Carter, look at this. We got mugs.
I'll tell you something.
We got all kinds of. We got golf balls. Do you have golf balls?
What a whore you are.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Stephen Carter is the president and the straw that stirs the drink at
Did we get everybody
campaigns.
mentioned? Do we have to do anything else?
You want to take a look? I think we got them all.
I think we did it all, yeah.
I think we got them all. You can check out DecideCampaigns.com.
I'd like to thank thestrategists.com.
I'm going to move right now.
Please go.
Deftly. I think deftly is the theme today into promoting the latest from Stephen Carter, including the latest episode of the Strat. No, it's not the.
No,
is this a joke?
No, that's the last one I cared about.
Okay, on your website, the latest from Decide Campaigns is your episode from February 17th of 2022. 3 years ago.
I'm too busy to do that kind of shit.
Okay, so don't go to your website.
Don't go to
then.
my website.
You don't want people going to your website.
They might hire me.
Add the
I'm a little
strategist
busy.
if you don't already.
I'm a little tired.
If you don't already, look at this. He's already posturing for more money. This is what he does. You create demand.
Oh, I'm sending you a bill for this one.
Yeah. Stephen Carter, one of our favorites. In all seriousness, man, love chatting with you. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. It was
You
fun.
got it, buddy. Real Talkers want to give you a heads up that on our very next episode, we're going to check in with two more podcasters, Erica Barudis and Cheryl Oates. What?
They have something called a podcast, but do they have listeners? Because I think that actually defines what a podcast
Are you trying to
is.
pick a fight with literally everybody?
Well, I didn't even bring up the Curse of Politics, the worst politics podcast in Canada.
Yeah, Curse of Politics. Well, Jenny Byrne was on that show for a long time, wasn't she? Is she
Yeah,
coming back? Or
She got
she
nothing
may be
else
coming
to
back?
do.
Maybe you add Jenny Byrne as the third pillar on the strategist.
Well, we want people with talent.
Oh, geez. Another fight. Look at this. Fires burning everywhere as Stephen Carter leaves Mercer Warehouse. Co-host of The Strategist, longtime campaign strategist himself, obviously. So that's what we can look forward to, Real Talkers, as we wrap today, letting you know that you can catch Erica and Cheryl coming up on the show. The next episode of the show, that'll be the 1st of May. And as mentioned, I'll be hosting the Capital Conversation later that morning. You can check out timcarmel.ca for more on that. And a week later, on the 8th of May, the State of Our City, presented by the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. I'll be there with an incredible panel of guests. Real candid talk about Edmonton's future. Check out edmontonchamber.com for more.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harman Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjaspersen.com.